Good evening and welcome to the Monday, February 9th, 2026 meeting of the Arlington County Planning Commission. I am Commissioner Nia Bagley, Chair. Tonight we will hear and discuss the one agenda item, the Lecky Garden Apartments, and the following elements along with it. The General Land Use Plan Amendment rezoning and the Site Plan number 482. A few pointers before we get started for participants. Presenters and speakers joining the meeting through Microsoft Teams, please keep your phones and other electronic devices muted until you are called upon by the clerk. Please turn off the sound to any devices around you to minimize interference and keep your cameras off until the clerk announces your name to speak. When called upon, you must unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon that is in the meeting command bar or at the top of the screen. The moderator nor the clerk have the ability to unmute your mic. Once you have spoken, please mute your mics and turn your cameras off. If you are dialing in by phone to join the meeting, please press *6 to unmute. Public speakers will be called upon by the clerk at an assigned time. Pre-registration with email confirmation is required to speak at tonight's hearing. We are not able to accommodate additional speakers. All speakers, virtual, hybrid, will receive 2 minutes to comment as an individual. Only representatives of a county board appointed advisory group, committee, and/or commission will receive 3 minutes to comment. A timer will be displayed on the screen if speaking virtually, and speakers in person will follow the timer stationed at the podium. Audio of tonight's meeting is available via phone. If commissioners, presenters, or speakers lose internet connectivity, please reconnect by phone. However, if you are dialing in by phone and unable to see the screen, we will provide an audible 30-second warning to wrap up your comments. You will be muted when your time has expired. The meeting chat is active for presenters or commissioners who need technical assistance only. Please do not use the meeting chat for discussion, public comment, questions about agenda items, or requests for further information. All public comments must be shared verbally for the record during the assigned public testimony period. Tonight's meeting will be available for review through the YouTube platform. A link has been provided on the Planning Commission website 24 to 48 hours after the adjournment of the meeting. Although the meetings will no longer be a live broadcast, the meetings will be available for review with closed captioning on Comcast Xfinity channels 25 and 1073, Verizon Fios channels 39 and 40, 24 to 48 hours after the adjournment of the meeting. Lastly, this is a public forum. Tonight's meeting will be recorded and posted to the county website via a link to YouTube as stated. All information associated with tonight's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to the Virginia Freedom of Information Act requirements. Madam Clerk, please call our first item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our first and only item tonight is the following. 1A GLP A25-00002 GP-371-261, the General Land Use Plan Amendment for 2031 North Woodrow Street. 1B REZN 25-00006, a rezoning, and 1C SPLN 25-00007, Site Plan 482. We have Chrissy Walentish to present this item this evening. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, members of the Planning Commission. As Giselle said, I'm Chrissy Walentish with the Department of Community Planning, Housing, and Development. And I'm joined by Sergio Viricochea with the Department of Environmental Services. And we're here tonight to present to you the Lecky Gardens redevelopment project. The applicant, True Ground Housing Partners, has submitted 3 land use applications for your consideration. The first is a request to amend the county's general land use plan to change the site's designation from low medium residential to low office apartment hotel. The second is a rezoning request to rezone the property from RA 818 multiple family dwelling district to CO 1.5 mixed use. And the third is a request for a site plan to construct an 11-story residential building with 249 committed affordable residential units. The subject site is located within Waverly Hills neighborhood and is directly south of the Lee Heights shops. It's bound by North Woodrow Street to the west, 21st Street north to the north, Woodstock Street to the east, and 20th Road north to the south. Condominium buildings and rental apartment buildings are located both to the east and west of the site, and single-family homes are located to the south. Woodstock Park is located to the southwest. The site is currently developed with 2 4-story garden apartment buildings constructed in 1949 containing 40 affordable housing units and their associated surface parking lots. This slide shows views of the site's existing conditions. We'd like for you to note the grade change from north to south, as well as the site's relationship with 21st Street North, which you can see in the image in the lower right of the screen. This is a private street and is utilized as a one-way drive aisle for the Lee Heights Shops parking lot. Lucky Gardens is located within the boundaries of the Langston Boulevard Area Plan, which was adopted by the County Board in December 2023. If approved, this will be the first site plan subject to the guidance of the new plan. The area plan provides a series of policies and implementation strategies to guide future public and private development decisions, and ultimately, the plan will help transform the predominantly car-oriented strip commercial and residential corridor into a green mixed-use Main Street that provides safe and multimodal access and is rooted in environmental resiliency, economic sustainability, and equity. The site is located within Area 3, which is considered the heart of the corridor, and partially within the planned activity hub, which is envisioned to contain a new plaza, parks, and pedestrian bicycle connections to serve the community. Next, we'll take a look at the development proposal. As mentioned, the proposed GLUP amendment is to change the site's designation from low medium residential to low office apartment hotel. The Langston Boulevard Area Plan expects GLUP amendments in conjunction with redevelopment proposals in order to align the land use designations within the plan's future vision. The GLUP map on the left shows the site's current designations, while the map on the right is an excerpt from the area plan showing future expected GLUP designations. As you can see, the Lucky Garden site is identified for a future designation of low office apartment hotel. So the requested GLUP amendment is directly in conformance with the guidance of the area plan. The applicant also proposes a rezoning of the site from RA 818 multiple family dwelling district, which you can see in the zoning map on the left, to CO 1.5, which is a mixed use district. The rezoning is encouraged by the area plan, so the site can achieve a higher density than permitted under the existing RA 818 zoning, and it also better aligns the zoning district with the proposed GLUP designation of low office apartment hotel. The text on the right highlights the section of the area plan that encourages rezonings to CO 1.5 in conjunction with the GLUP amendments to low office apartment hotel. Here's a closer look at the development proposal. The applicant's presentation will also provide more details. The proposed building will contain 249 CAF units. The proposed density is 183 dwelling units per acre. Provision of public space in the form of a greenway for tree preservation and stormwater mitigation. 218 vehicular spaces and 106 bicycle parking spaces to be located in a below-grade garage. The proposed parking ratio is 0.82 spaces per unit. There are 2 loading bays accessible from North Woodstock Street, and proposed zoning ordinance modifications for additional height, additional density, parking ratio reduction, and density exclusions. This slide shows a rendering of the building from North Woodrow Street and 20th Road North in a site layout exhibit where you can see the greenway on the southern end of the site as well as an interior private courtyard. Next, we'll take a look at the analysis of policy conformance. For land use and density, the applicant is proposing a fully residential building which conforms with the use mix map from the area plan on the left. For density, the tabulations are shown in the table on the upper right of the screen. Site space density under the CO 1.5 zoning district, which permits up to 72 units per acre for residential uses, is 98 units. The applicant is requesting an additional 151 units above the zoning ordinance base, which they are achieving via Zoning Ordinance Section 1559, which permits additional density in exchange for the provision of affordable housing, which this project provides. The table in the lower right provides the proposed affordable unit mix, which you will note there is a large number of 2+ bedroom units or family size units which are in high demand. The area plan calls for a maximum building height of 10 stories or approximately 125 feet along 21st Street North on the northern end of the block, and then a tapering down to 7 stories in the middle, then to 5 stories on the southern portion of the block, as demonstrated in the building heights and form map on the left. The portion of the building that fronts 21st Street North is 10 stories tall if measured from average sidewalk elevation, and 10 stories is what you would see if you're looking at the building from Langston Boulevard. However, due to the steep grade change in the zoning ordinance requirement of measuring building height from average site elevation, the P1 parking level technically counts as an additional story. However, the building height in feet of 111 feet is well within the maximum height range for this site, which permits building heights of up to 125 feet. The plan established a height and feet range in order to accommodate for sites like Lucky Gardens where there is a steep grade change, and the calculated average site elevation may affect a number of proposed stories. Given these factors, the proposed building height is consistent with the plan's recommendation. For building form, the area plan calls for the building to be set back from the southern property line by 35 to 40 feet to accommodate the greenway. The plan then calls for the building to be tapered to provide a suitable transition to the single-family houses to the south. Per the plan, there should be step backs in the building massing of 10 feet from the build-to line on the 6th level and 90 feet on the 10th level as shown in the plan on the left. The applicant has provided a 10-foot step back on the 5th level, which is appropriate given the grade change, an 80-foot step back on the 7th level, which is appropriate because there are 3 total step backs, and a third step back of 32 feet.
Ms. Walontish,
Yes.
would you mind slowing down just a minute?
Sure.
Thank you.
And a third step back of 32 feet on the 10th level. Overall, the proposed building massing and tapering is in conformance with the area plan's guidance. On this slide, you can see renderings of the proposed architecture, which the applicant will discuss in more detail in their presentation. The proposed architecture generally conforms with the building mass and articulation guidance found in section 433 of the plan, as well as the design elements guidance found in section 435 of the plan. Turning to transportation-related aspects of the project, we'll look at both streetscape and parking details. For the streetscapes, the sidewalk and landscape strip dimensions on all 4 street frontages either meet or exceed guidance found in either the area plan and/or master transportation plan. For parking, the applicant proposes a total of 218 spaces, with 206 allocated for residential use and 12 spaces for visitor parking. This equates to a parking ratio of 0.82 spaces per unit, which is below the zoning ordinance requirement of 1.125 spaces per unit for this project. The applicant is requesting a parking ratio reduction to permit a ratio of 0.82 spaces per unit, which staff supports given the site's proximity to transit options and the project type being that of affordable housing. The applicant will also participate in a transportation demand management plan. Next, we'll look at public space and environmental impacts. As depicted in the public space network map on the left, the site is expected to contain a greenway on its southern border, with its purpose being for tree preservation and stormwater mitigation. The plan recommends a greenway width of 35 to 40 feet, and the applicant's proposed greenway width varies between 28 feet wide and 43 feet wide, which staff finds generally conforms with the plan's objectives for the space. The applicant is granting a public access easement over this space so that it is able to be utilized by the public. Street trees are proposed along North Woodstock Street and North Woodrow Street. However, on 21st Street North, smaller ornamental trees are currently proposed due to a conflict with aerial power lines, which are proposed to remain with redevelopment. In addition to the provision of the greenway, which will help catch stormwater runoff, the applicant is also constructing an underground retention vault. Both of these provisions help to ensure that the project conforms with the stormwater mitigation guidance of the area plan. In regard to tree preservation, after the conclusion of SPRC 2 in December, staff determined that one of the mature trees within the greenway would be unlikely to survive post-construction due to the proposed building footprint being placed too close to this tree. Due to this, the applicant is unable to count this tree toward their tree canopy coverage and therefore is not anticipated to meet the tree canopy coverage recommendation in the area plan of 35%. The proposed tree canopy coverage is approximately 29.18%. We note this is a planned deviation. And last, the applicant proposes to achieve LEED Silver Green Building certification. As a result of input received from the public during SPRC, as well as by comments provided by staff, the project has evolved significantly since its original submission. Here you can see the improvements made to the building's architecture. The applicant has also added additional entrances, windows, and louvers to add street level activation and break up blank facades. The proposed site access is also improved. You can see the comparison in these 2 plans on the screen. The applicant consolidated and relocated 2 parking entrances from North Woodstock Street to North Woodrow Street, which is recommended in the area plan. They have also added an additional building entrance on the P2 level, as well as 2 bike rooms. Next, I want to flag 3 site and building design matters that are either a deviation from the area plan or a standard site plan condition. The first, as we discussed on a previous slide, is the loss of a mature oak tree, which is pictured here. Because that tree is so large, and because there are numerous site constraints in this area, including the proposed building placement and underground utilities, any replacement tree would have to be much smaller and therefore wouldn't count toward the tree canopy coverage as much as the existing tree does. The applicant does believe this tree will survive post-construction, so we're working with them to make sure landscape plans and conditions provide appropriate options for future plantings. The second is the placement of a transformer box within the greenway. For standard site plan conditions, all electric transformers must be placed in an underground vault. While there is precedence for staff permitting above grade transformers in the past, the applicant has needed to demonstrate constraints or circumstances that prove placing the transformer underground infeasible. The placement of the transformer on the Lecky Garden site is adjacent to the building entrance within the site's public space and highly visible from the public right-of-way. Last, standard site plan conditions require that all existing aerial easements within aerial utilities within 5 feet of the property line must be removed and replaced underground. However, since the utility poles are located on private property, we cannot enforce this condition as it requires approval from the owner of the Lee Heights shops, which to date the applicant does not have. While staff acknowledges this circumstance, we also assert that the pedestrian experience and neighborhood aesthetics will be negatively impacted in this area of the site due to the retention of these utility lines. Although these elements are acknowledged as suboptimal, staff concludes they do not outweigh the project's benefits, given that the redevelopment would deliver 249 affordable units and otherwise conforms with the area plan. This timeline shows the public review process for the site plan. We held the online engagement event in October. We had the first SPRC meeting as well as an in-person walking tour in November and the second meeting in December. The Transportation Commission voted unanimously to approve the project on February 5th, and the project will go to the Housing Commission for action on February 12th. We have also received letters from the FNRC as well as the C2E2 regarding this project, which have been transmitted to the Commission, the County Board, and to the applicant. The County Board will hear this item next Saturday, February 21st. Generally, the project conforms with the guidance of the Langston Boulevard Area Plan, except for the tree canopy coverage. Also, it will provide 249 CAF units, which equals 10% of the overall Langston Boulevard Area Plan affordable housing goal to deliver 2,500 units by the year 2040. It will also provide 180 units that are 2-bedroom and larger to accommodate families, and will also provide a greenway for stormwater mitigation and tree preservation. Last, the project will achieve LEED Silver Green building certification. Given this analysis and staff's findings, we recommend that the Planning Commission recommend to the County Board to adopt a resolution for a general land use plan amendment to change the designation from low medium residential to low office apartment hotel, to adopt an ordinance for rezoning of the property from RA 818 to CO 1.5, and to adopt an ordinance for a site plan to permit this construction of an 11-story residential building with 249 committed affordable units and a parking ratio of 0.82 spaces per unit, with modifications for additional density, additional building height, reduced parking ratio, density exclusions, and other modifications necessary to achieve the proposed development. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walentish. And now we'll hear from the applicant.
Good evening, Chair Bagley and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Zach Williams. I'm a land use attorney with Venable, and I'm representing True Ground Housing Partners in this application. Presenting with me tonight will be Jordy Fabian with True Ground Housing Partners, as well as Jan Makovnik with Davis Carter Scott Architects and Felice Brichta with Gore of Slade. Going to go ahead and bring up our presentation. To kick us off, I'm going to hand it over to Jordy Fabian with True Ground Housing Partners.
Yeah, I just want to say a few words. Thank you, everybody, for appreciate everybody's time on this process, and as well as the community feedback. It has helped make this project a better project, and essentially being able to gather everyone's feedback. I just want to tell you a little bit about True Ground. We are a nonprofit affordable housing developer. We're based in Arlington. We have done several affordable housing projects in Arlington specifically, and this is a property that currently True Ground owns, and we're looking to redevelop, and we're very excited about it.
Great, thank you, Jordy. So before we get into the project, we did want to walk through how we got here. This is the first project to be considered by the Planning Commission under the Langston Boulevard Area Plan. And we are excited and proud to be here tonight with you to have the first project under discussion. But it took a long time to get here, as folks may know who were involved with the plan. The planning process started, depending on who you ask, 5, 10, maybe 30 years ago. It was a long community-oriented process, a lot of community input, and ultimately resulted in the plan that has now, we've seen several projects come forward, this being the first. The site is located at an existing True Ground housing site called Lecky Gardens, with 40 existing units there at 2031 North Woodger Street in Arlington. It's just under an acre and a half in total size, and as already discussed, is zoned to the RA 18 zone. Quickly, the Langston Boulevard Area Plan, it set forth a whole host of guidance and standards for sites. This site was one of the probably the most discussed sites during the process, with height and density being one of the most discussed topics. I highlight that here only because the building that you'll see here while we present it here today, it was the result of quite a lot of discussion and negotiation with the community. Ultimately, what was determined to be appropriate by the county board was a stepping down approach from 10 stories down to 5, and the building follows that form, as you'll see in a few minutes here. I also call out this slide. Not all sites in the plan have this type of detail associated with them as far as what the appropriate height and density is. Given the grade change, the grade differential on the site, and the confusion about what counts as a story, the plan was very explicit about what would be permitted, what was considered appropriate on the site. And this page out of the plan illustrates that. And again, the application is in conformance with the plan guidance. Beyond height and density, the plan speaks to all kinds of other topics, as well as open space and greenways, both of which are recommended on this site with a significant buffer to the south, which this project is in conformance with. In particular, the new building will track the same footprint as the existing buildings. And so that was discussed during the plan review and during the plan adoption, and the project does in fact do that. Getting into the project itself, this is a all affordable project with 249 committed affordable units from 1, 2 to 3 to 4 bedroom units. There will be a 2-level parking garage, partly underground with 218 spaces. The parking ratio inclusive of the 12 visitor spaces is 0.88. As I already mentioned, the massing and the height are all in compliance with the Langston Boulevard Area Plan, as is the setback and the buffer, allowing for that greenway to the south. There's also significant underground stormwater detention and overland relief that's being provided with this plan. Again, all in conformance with the guidance of the Langston Boulevard Area Plan. Now, we believe we are meeting the 35% tree canopy coverage, and we can talk more about that as we go through this meeting tonight. We believe that tree that Ms. Wallentesh discussed will survive, and if it in fact does, we will be meeting that 35% tree canopy coverage. The building will be meeting LEED Silver and Energy Star certification, and you'll also see there's a private courtyard and typical resident amenities that True Ground provides for its residents. I'm now going to hand it over to Jan Makovnich with Davis Carter Scott to walk through the elevations.
Good evening, everybody. So now we're going to walk around the building, look at the exterior design. So we are at the corner of 21st Street and Woodstock Street, where there is located the main entrance to the building, and it's kind of the most visible part of the building itself, especially when you're approaching it from Langston Boulevard from the north. There was the main entrance is, and it's kind of the only element on this building that you see, and it's a vertical. The rest of the building, the way it's designed, especially now when you see on the 21st Street, which is the north elevation, would have like the typical composition, horizontal composition of the base, the main body of the building, and the top. The materials on the buildings are combination at the ground levels, masonry, and we go at the upper levels, a combination of masonry, some metal panels, and fiber cement facades. This is actually probably the best diagram in a 3D massing showing the Langston Boulevard, the setbacks, and the heights of the building. And you can see that actually that really helps to break up the massing and almost make the building feel like rather like a one single building, like more groups of buildings. And we also continuing the more horizontal expressions. And You can kind of also see there is a little notch at the corner of the building when we accommodated in this area additional space for a stormwater pipe, and also a little bit additional space for a tree root system of very beautiful tree that we have on this corner of the building. Again, here you can kind of see that the base of the building, the horizontal part, is mostly the masonry, and above it, it's a combination of a cement board, fiber cement boards, and the masonry. This is another view, which is like a northwest corner with the 21st Street and Woodrow Street. And again, you kind of see how the building starts to steps down towards the residential neighborhood, single-family homes in the south side, with the going from the 10, 9 to 6 and the 4 floors. This diagram, this view is actually kind of from the entrance to the Woodstock Park, if you will. If it's a southeast corner, it's a Woodstock Street and the 20th Road. And you can kind of see that really the 9 and 10-story portion of the building really from this side, especially when you get closer, it would be completely hidden from the view. So really you would, perception would be really this is between 5 to 6, 7-story building, rather a 10-story building, especially because the very steep slope that you see as it goes up on the Woodstock side. Now we're going to go a little bit closer. This would be the main entrance again on 21st and Woodstock at the corner. And we also use a little bit of a different color here. It's a true ground green that would be incorporated into the canopies and the main portal of the entrance into the public areas. And we have this is going to be the most street activated side of the building, where there would be functions such as lobby, leasing, and other social areas. On this is a view on a Woodstock Street as it goes steeply down. And what we did, we moved the facade of the building a little bit further away from the sidewalk and created kind of a landscape buffer. And we're going to do some planting to soften up that transition between the sidewalk and the building. And also when you see there on that long horizontal element, the masonry at the base, that's basically when the building changes from the garage to a residential unit. So we would use masonry and architectural metal grill panel grills that can have some biophilic patterns in it. This is another view, just going to go quickly. This is a Woodstock, it's at the Woodstock corner, when there will be a secondary lobby where people coming from the park can also enter the building. And there is a transformer enclosure we mentioned earlier, with the design elements, materials that would kind of replicate the main building. So it would feel like part of the building rather than like a separate element. On this one, this is the entrance to the building on the secondary lobby on a Woodrow side, which is a little bit higher up.
That is the end of the time. Are you close to wrapping up?
Yes, this is actually the last view, I believe.
Awesome.
Oh, no, actually, no, there are some floor plans. I'm sorry.
Could we make it like 2 minutes max for the whole
Okay,
thing?
I'm going to fly through that.
Thank you.
Okay, so we can skip then this one and we just go quickly to the floor plans. This is just the section and the floor plan. This is the lower parking garage level of the building. This is the upper level, which also have a loading area and the entrance, and from the secondary street from Woodrow Street on the left side for the vehicles. It's a ground floor when there are mostly residential units and the common areas and the residential courtyard. On this slide, we're just showing different floor plans as the building steps up and the floor plans become smaller and smaller and eventually becomes a U-shaped building. And the 10th floor, it's about just 30% of the total footprint of the building on the top floor. And this is just the colored site plan showing existing trees at the south side, which is the greenway or the small park that we're preserving, the green buffer, the street trees along the street with on both sides, east and west. They're about 6 foot a tree panel and a 6 foot sidewalk, and again, greenery in the residential courtyard. And I hand over to Felice.
Just to move this ahead, why don't we go over to the slide on parking? Because we expect that will be some questions about that. And this will be our last slide.
Sure, sounds good. Wanted to just quickly touch on the parking. I know parking was the parking ratio was a focus of this site, so we did do some comparable studies at some other sites within Arlington for comparison. The most notable is the existing Lecky site. You can see that's a 0.7 ratio, and then as well as listed below are some other sites along Columbia Pike, and kind of aligns with the proposed parking ratio. So we're happy to come back and discuss this one further if that's helpful.
And we have our whole team here and we're available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams and company. Madam Clerk, do we have public speakers tonight?
We do. We have 9 speakers, I believe. For the speakers online, I will be calling your names first. So please listen for your name. You're responsible for turning on your camera and your mic. Once the clock has completed, please turn your cameras and your mics off. Thank you. The first person to speak this evening is John Musso, followed by David Williard.
Good morning, good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Planning Commission. John Musso with the Arlington Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of the Chamber, I wish to express our strong support for this project. As noted in the previous presentation, this project would generate 249 committed affordable units, which is a tremendous addition to the affordable housing landscape here in Arlington, as well as a tremendous achievement for the goals in terms of the Arlington County Affordable Housing Master Plan and for the Langston Boulevard Area Plan. We very strongly believe this would be a welcome addition to the Langston Boulevard corridor and Arlington County at large. Additionally, we are very happy to see the additional community benefits as mentioned in the presentation, such as the greenway, stormwater preservation, tree preservation, and so forth. So we do strongly recommend that you each recommend the adoption of, as mentioned, the rezoning, GLUP amendment, and site plan amendment for this project. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Musso. Our next speaker is David Williard, followed by Bernie Byrne.
Hi, my name is David Willard. My wife and I live just a block off of Langston Boulevard. I strongly support the Lecky Gardens site plan as presented. This is exactly what the county envisioned and planned Langston Boulevard, and it's exactly what our community needs. This project is going to give hundreds of families the opportunity to live in an amazing, walkable neighborhood. The ART 55 bus service on Cherry Hill Road provides fast and easy access up and down the boulevard, connecting to the Orange and Silver Metro lines at Roslyn and East Falls Church. ART and Metro buses along Glebe Road also provide easy access to the Ballston neighborhood and Metro station. Together, this transit access reduces the need for residents to make every trip via car, lowering the building's parking requirements and the local traffic impact. This building and its new residents will be an asset to our community and will further the county's vision of a dense, walkable, transit-oriented, and vibrant Langston Boulevard. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Bernie Byrne, followed by Alice Hogan.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is not a good project. The building's private open area should not be within the building and should not be private. Externalize this open space. Make it available for public use. That's important, believe it or not. The project lacks real biophilia. Plant native flowering vines that will climb from the ground on trellises to create green walls between windows. Hang native vines down from the roof at all ledges and setbacks. There are none. The building has no green roof. It needs one. Why isn't it there? As I informed the applicant, many non-native plants and cultivars do not feed or provide habitat for native pollinators. However, the project contained 38 non-native plants. 23 of these are not native to North America. 15 are native to North America, but are not native to Arlington County. One of the largest canopy trees, London plane trees, is not native to North America. What's going on here? The project should not have any cultivars unless they are more resistant to disease than their parents are. Nevertheless, this project will contain 38 cultivars that lack any such disease resistance. Replace all non-native plants and cultivars with similar plants that are native to Arlington and its vicinity. Do not use cultivars simply because they are some short or pretty. It looks like you're doing that. The project will contain, I don't know what landscape architect you had doing this, but it's really not good. The project will contain not common milkweed. This is good. It's maybe the only thing good about the project. Studies have shown that more than 80% of monarch butterflies overwintering in Mexico had fed on common milkweed as caterpillars. This project will only be LEED Silver. Although the project will create affordable housing units, that is no excuse for not being LEED Gold or LEED Platinum. They just want to save money. Please direct the applicant to correct these deficiencies before the county board considers this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Our next speaker is Alice Hogan, followed by Joan McIntyre.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, commissioners and staff and presenters. My name is Alice Hogan. I work with NAVAHA, the Northern Virginia Affordable Housing Alliance. I'm the Arlington director, and I want to thank True Ground Housing Partners and the county staff for working so hard and bringing forth a wonderful project. I want to echo the comments of John Musso as well as David Willard about the benefits of this expanded property for the Langston Boulevard corridor. Over 200 net new units, which is going to hit 10% of the goal for the entire corridor in one project, is really wonderful for our community. It's within the height. It's got 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units. Some of them are deeply affordable. They're replacing 70-plus-year-old units and offering first chance to return for current residents. So imagine coming to a brand new building. I appreciate the parking ratio, and that's going to help us as we move away from car dependence as a county. It is LEED Silver in addition to all the other things it's trying to accomplish. So we're very grateful for that. And for the site and stormwater upgrades that the community will benefit from. I want to applaud you all for working together with the community and the staff suggestions to bring forth a much improved proposal than from the start. And that shows that our Arlington process really works. This will be the first affordable housing on Langston Boulevard since the plan in a high opportunity neighborhood, and it will add socioeconomic and cultural diversity. So we're very much in favor, and thank you for bringing it forward. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Joan McIntyre, followed by Jeffrey Williams.
Two minutes or 3?
2.
Because I thought you give the option to sign up for different minutes that should be changed on the form.
2.
Okay.
Thank you.
Keep it to that, but I'm just saying the form should be changed. Okay. I'm Joan McIntyre speaking on behalf of Eco Action Arlington. We strongly support the development of affordable housing in Arlington. Creating a community that has room for a diverse population and a broad range of income levels is a part of environmental justice. And these proposed projects will actually help meet that affordability within Arlington. However, consideration of affordability and environmental justice needs to go beyond availability of housing, include energy affordability, resilience, and the ensuring that the future residents can take advantage of the transition to clean renewable energy. This project, with its commitment to LEED Silver and some of the other information on the energy models, indicates it really falls short of meeting this criteria. We ask the Planning Commission to recommend improvements to the plan that will prioritize a high-performing building that will be more resilient as well as lower energy costs, highly energy efficient in the systems that are used, including taking advantage of heat pump technology, full electrification to facilitate the process to renewable energy grid, and a minimum infrastructure to support the development of electric vehicles. Sustainability and climate resilience is not a luxury and should be a core design element for all projects. Projects such as Goodwill and Melwood really indicate that this is possible for affordable housing units. Meeting higher standards will ensure long-term cost savings, a healthier environment, a more resilient building, and protect the residents from climate change. And so thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jeffrey Williams, followed by Jason Schwartz.
Is it on? Okay. Hi, I'm Jeffrey Williams. My family has lived in Arlington for over 60 years, and I've seen many neighborhoods change, mostly for the better, but change often raises anxiety for current residents. In reviewing the SPRC public comments, I noted a number of resident concerns, including density impacts on infrastructure, building heights, and vehicular congestion. How do we balance these concerns with the advantages of the proposed site plan? Does the proposed Lucky Gardens development meet the adopted planning goals? The key housing policies in the Langston Boulevard Area Plan call for taller buildings near activity hubs, to prioritize more multifamily homes, especially with 2 or more bedrooms, and focus on preserving and replacing affordable housing for low and moderate income families and meeting residents' needs through increased building height and density. The proposed 10-story building will yield 249 committed affordable units, including 2, 3, and 4-bedroom units. This will replace buildings with surface parking that currently provides 40 units. This will add over 200 units of new housing for families with modest incomes. Lucky Gardens is consistent with the plan's guidance for this site. During the SPRC process, the building's architecture and materials change significantly. Although opinions may vary, the revised design is generally more attractive and blends better with the neighborhood due to improved materials and features. I strongly support the Lucky Gardens site plan proposal and encourage you to recommend approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jason Schwartz, followed by John Bloom.
Hello, my name is Jason Schwartz, and I support the recommendation for approval of the site. This project meets the zoning and policy guidelines for the site. It fits exactly what the Langston Boulevard Area Plan prescribes. This new housing will be an incredible improvement for current residents and residents moving into the site. I can only imagine what the residents that could be moving to the site are facing right now with the cold weather. This will be a extreme step change improvement for them in their quality of life. This site is very important because it places new CAFs in a very high opportunity area. The lack of new CAFs in North Arlington, and particularly this far north, as a county recognized problem, and this site will help address that. The housing is safe, eco-friendly, and overall high quality, and all features such as in-unit laundry. That's nicer than my apartment has, and it certainly will be a credible quality of life improvement again. This site, as a transformation, is long due. Planned Langston Boulevard kickoff was in 2019. So we're going to look at the first site being delivered, first structure, nearly a decade after the site plan Langston Boulevard was kicked off. And that to me is way too far of a timeline. So we need to catch up, and that starts right now with approving the site and then looking on to see how we can speed up Langston Boulevard so that more buildings like this can come online. Lastly, this project will be great residence for people to live it with dignity, right? This is going to be on an area where there's no highways, no arterial roads. Residents are going to be able to open their window and not have to listen to loud trucks, cars go by, where we often place other affordable sites in apartment buildings. It's really important that we put apartment dwellers in high opportunity, quiet, comfortable, safe areas like this to integrate into the fabric of our society. So with that, I strongly support approval, and I'm very excited to see this project come forth and kick off Langston Boulevard. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker for the evening is John Bloom.
Hello, I'm John Bloom, speaking for the Sierra Club's Potomac River Group. We're strong supporters of affordable housing and Lucky Gardens. We're proud to stand with the affordable housing community through difficult issues in the past, and will do so in the future. We're also deeply concerned about climate justice for low-income families and with Arlington's climate commitments. I'd like to expand a bit on the issue of EV-ready parking. The idea, obviously, is to make as many spaces as possible available for EV parking in the future. We can't continue to set up the awful situation we have now with the existing buildings, where retrofitting for EV parking is a nightmare. It's especially important for low-income residents because EVs already have a lower total cost of ownership than comparable gas cars, and the cost of used EVs is a bargain. The cost advantage of EVs will only grow in the future. Access to charging is the biggest challenge, and new construction is the critical time. Once the concrete dries, it's too late. The proposal to make fewer than 5% of parking spaces EV ready would be a serious mistake. True Ground may find that using low power solutions, including some level 1 charging, and using load management software allows them to use the same electrical capacity to serve 4 to 8 times more parking spaces than if they use standard level 2 charging assumptions. So we hope True Ground will consult with the Air Teams experts and others to develop a plan to provide substantially more EV ready spots in time for the county board meeting. We think the Planning Commission should ask for this and the True Ground should agree. It's the right thing to do for tenants and the climate. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, are there any commissions speaking tonight?
Yes, we have Mr. Benson for FNRC.
Good evening. I'm Bob Benson with the Forestry and Natural Resources Commission. You all have our letter to the county board with recommendations to improve the tree design of this project. I talked about those points at the 2 SPRC meetings, and I won't go through them here, but I do want to offer a couple observations. First, a reminder, Arlington falls well short of its 40% tree canopy goal, and we're losing ground on private property development. Given that clear trend, when it comes to site plans, every tree counts. The FNRC supports the original goal of this site plan to hit the 35% Langston canopy target and conserve some of the existing trees. This will benefit the low and moderate income families who will call this neighborhood home. We want shade for them, not heat islands. However, my commission is concerned that we made recommendations through several rounds of review now to conserve the trees along 20th Road, including that specimen oak tree, to bury the power lines on 21st Street, negotiating with Lee Heights with county facilitation if necessary, to plant more street shade trees, and to create 7 or 8 foot wide tree planting strips, which national experts believe is the optimal width. But we haven't seen these changes yet in the plan. And we're not the only ones making these points. The county urban forestry staff and other public commenters have made these recommendations as well. Plus, we now know that the specimen oak tree on the southwest corner of the lot will be severely impacted if the design is not adjusted to allow for better root protection. This is the technical view of our county staff urban forestry experts. The loss of that tree will prevent the project from meeting the 35% Langston Boulevard goal, lose it by quite a bit, down to 29%. We think, and the urban forestry staff thinks, that a small adjustment in the building footprint in that corner would ensure that the tree would survive. So my commission urges your commission to seriously address these points, maybe even make them a condition for approval. Our recommendations are not working at cross purposes with the affordable housing goals of this project. They will not result in the loss of units. Instead, they will increase benefits for the people who live in this building and in this neighborhood. We owe it to them not to cut corners on tree plantings and landscaping. Thank you.
Did this come in front of transportation?
Yes, it did, Madam Chair. It was at our meeting last Thursday, February 5th. As Ms. Wolnitich has mentioned, it was voted 9-0 unanimously to support the project. We had discussion of a number of points. We did feel that the parking ratio is appropriate for this. We did hear from the applicant that roughly 8 to 10% of the units will be supportive units, which tend to not need automobiles, which helps to bring down the number of people who could be potentially needing a parking space in the garage. We also looked at traffic, the design of the intersection of 20th Road and Woodstock, where there are bump outs and a traffic circle proposed, they confirmed that traffic can and trucks can get through. It will make it safer for pedestrians to cross right there. It will slow traffic. That is viable. That the design of that is viable and will be included. The traffic generated by the project is projected to be about 40% going east along Langston and Cherry Hill Road, 20% going west, 20% going north on Glebe, and 20% going south on Glebe. That this additional traffic is not projected to affect either Cherry Hill or Woodstock or Langston intersections, that there doesn't need to be any real changes to traffic timing or lane width or anything like that. We did have a good discussion on bike lanes, and the rationale for having the parking lane be inside, having the parking lane be inside of the bike lane up against the sidewalk. And this is all paint. It's, however we look at it, it's going to be just paint rather than a cycle track. We questioned whether we could instead paint a small buffer between the bike lane and the traffic lane. That's something that staff said they can look at this stage. They're not recommending that there be a bike lane between the parking lane and the sidewalk because the overall width of the right-of-way is too narrow to support that under county standards, and as applied by our traffic staff. We pushed back a bit on that, and wondering why, for whether this, how does it work for the safety? Where's it more dangerous, inside or out? Their concern why staff has is that if a door opens on the on the passenger side, a bike is coming through, there really isn't any place to go because there's a curb there, hit the curb, you fall off, which is a concern. We then said, however, on more doors open on the traffic side and you swerve into traffic, which is also pretty dangerous. So the discussion went back and forth and realized this is not really a issue for this particular site, but it's more of a countywide policy issue. So as I mentioned, we did vote unanimously in favor of recommending this project to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lantelmi. Commissioner Berkey and Commissioner Amadeo, thank you so much for chairing this project and for also providing all of us a very detailed report. So Commissioner Berkey, if you would like to speak.
Famous last words, try to be brief. Thank you, and I appreciate co-chairing this with Commissioner Amadeo. It's what a lovely way to get to know another commissioner. Really recommend it. Really thankful to staff, Ms. Walentish and Mr. Vero Cochea for their work on this. This was a thoughtful application from True Ground and their partners, and appreciate all the back and forth and your patience with me when I've had questions over time. This project really did. We say it, but it's true. We need to keep affirming this. It did benefit from the community engagement. We had a lot of folks from Waverly Hills come to meetings and write in. We have a lot of other folks. I think generally speaking, it's fair to say this project at the SPRC level, we had a lot of folks who are very excited about this project for the affordable housing it's going to provide. We also had a lot of folks who are concerned about the height and density and are concerned about the parking, and we're going to talk about that, right? So those are kind of two big buckets. I'm just going to summarize very briefly so we can move to the discussion. A lot of this already is in the staff report, but some of the kind of the bigger things that we've talked about in the SPRC, we did talk about the height, right? And it appearing as 10 stories in some places and 11 in others. And the staff has explained that still is compliant with the Langston area plan, but we can talk about that. Some folks in the neighborhood have argued for a 7-story limit. That's not per se what the plan calls for. There's some disagreement there. So a lot of the discussion at the SPRC level really was, what does the area plan prescribe? And staff has laid that out, which is it steps down as you get away from the Lehigh. Heights shops, right? And that, I was not on the planning commission then, but I recall the robust conversation about this specific site being called out and it essentially being a compromise how it steps down, right? We did talk a lot about parking and there being less parking than is envisioned by the zoning ordinance, and the applicant has provided their rationale as to why this is appropriate. So there's a lot of back and forth, especially with overflow, with the parking itself and street parking and how it currently exists on the surface lot. There was a lot of back and forth, and to the applicant's credit, they even went out different times of the day, kind of evaluated what the parking vacancies were in the lot, looking at, things like that. And I think that didn't necessarily satisfy everyone, but certainly assuaged some concerns, right, as we had that dialogue. Moving to environment and open space, we talked about there's going to be a greenway, which the applicant is providing. I think a conversation about the tree canopy tonight is certainly worth discussion. And Mr. Williams, raised the concerns about the one large oak tree. And then, of course, we talked about the LEED Silver certification. And anyway, I'll wrap it up to say, it is worth, again, repeating that the applicant is proposing to provide 249 committed affordable housing units, which in my personal view is a big deal. I remember 10 years ago, 12 years ago, whatever, the Affordable Housing Master Plan, the discussion was, where can we get affordable housing that's not just in Columbia Pike? This is affordable housing, not in Columbia Pike. This is Langston Boulevard. And this potentially gets us quite a bit of the way we want to be for the affordable housing plan master plan goals, but obviously the sector plan goals as well. So that's my summary. Commissioner Amadeo, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I second everything you said, and also wanted to add that it was a pleasure to work on this, really, and also to see the development. And I really appreciated the applicant paying a lot of attention to comments and feedback, and the feedback came hard and fast. And so I really appreciate that. The architecture has been revised a few times. I appreciated seeing the corners activated like the staff requested. I think they got some feedback on that. I think so. There are still things to talk about, but definitely it's come a long way, baby.
One last note before I forget. So just to conclude, we will be making motions to recommend this project go forward. I did also include an additional motion, which you may have seen in the SPRC report. To the credit of several advocates and folks, they're holding us accountable to our values. This project did not benefit from the participation of a current resident. That's not to say that anybody made a mistake. It was really me. I take responsibility for that. Projects like this, to the extent that we can ask folks to participate, it really benefits to actually have a real seat at the table. And so I'm going to be making a motion to that effect to at least ask that we make a greater effort to ask folks if they're interested in participating, not just in affordable housing development, but anytime there's a current residential building being redeveloped, that current residents at least have the opportunity to participate if they would like. But that is the conclusion of my report. Thanks.
Thank you. This is now open for our discussion. We can follow the traditional SP. I know that Commissioner Berkey and Amadeo in their report put through some items for us to discuss, but we'll just go through the standard ones. No. You don't, you would prefer to go through just the ones in Commissioner Berkey's. Okay, we can do that. So in that case, the first one is building height and massing. Anyone have any comments on that? Building. Commissioner Torres?
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for all your hard work. I can see everyone put a lot of time into this project. I ultimately will support this project, but I am concerned that the building does look very blocky and doesn't have enough shadows, and potentially changes this area dramatically from what it used to be to what it is going to be. So I know there's going to be a big impact in this area, so I'm a little bit concerned.
Any other comments on, oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Lynn, tell me, go ahead.
As Commissioner Berkey mentioned, this was discussed a lot when Plan Langston Boulevard was being discussed. I want to just sort of point out and raise, because this was very much a controversial project for the height. The neighborhood did raise a lot of concerns about the appropriateness of going up 10 stories and sort of blame Langston Boulevard for that and the area plan. What I want to observe is that even if the Langston Boulevard area plan didn't exist, because this site will be 100% affordable, and by right now in RE 818, it was up to 4 stories by right for multifamily. The applicant could have come in with, if there was not an area plan, with a proposal for a 10-story building using the provision in the zoning code, which we used for the Marbella, which gives 6 bonus stories above what is otherwise allowed for 100% affordable units. It'd still have to go through site plan, but there wouldn't be the guidance that the Langston Area Boulevard plan has for this, with the required setbacks and step backs. We don't know how it would come out if, put it this way, there wouldn't be the guidance that we had under the Langston Boulevard area plan for this building. Yeah, it's not perfect, I agree, but it does comport with that plan. But we would have gotten something similar if there was no Langston Boulevard area plan in this same site. So I want us to keep in mind that the argument, whether it be 7 stories, well, I fully understand where people are coming from. It would probably have happened anyway. We need additional units, and the whole point of the bonus 6 stories in the zoning ordinance in unplanned areas is to do this very thing, to get housing, affordable housing into this county. So I just want to make that observation rather than have a question. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lynn. Tell me, anybody else on building height and massing? Commissioner Patel?
Thank you, Chair Bagley. I would just say, while I do not have specific concerns around the density or the height of this building, I appreciate Commissioner Torres's comments around, what it would look like in this space, and it's something very different than what many neighbors are used to experiencing in that particular space. I want to be able to acknowledge that jump for them, and so I appreciate Commissioner Lantelmi's comments about getting additional density. I will echo comments from Commissioner Streiner from many meetings ago, and make sure everybody understands that just because we can do something doesn't mean that we should. In this particular case, I think what we are hearing from the community is we should, because this is a prime opportunity for us to be able to achieve a very important goal for this county, which is affordable housing, and not just affordable housing at the levels that we see in many other projects, but to be able to achieve affordable housing at deeply affordable rates and at units that are much bigger, and have the diversity of units that we are seeing at this particular project. So I appreciate the any concerns that may have come up, and I do remember with Plan Langston Boulevard the concerns that came, because this is a different project than what that area looks like. However, the benefits, I think, far outweigh the concerns with regard to the massing of the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Next topic is architecture. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Steinberg.
I was going to align myself with Commissioner Patel's comments, and I also thought it was really, I don't know in which category this next comment will fit, but I wanted to also praise Commissioner Berkey's statement that the process might have really benefited from having a resident involved in it. And I think that's something we should really think about for future SPRCs when we're thinking about the composition of, who's invited to the SPRC process and how we can make that something that is accommodating of maybe some different schedules and sort of voices that we're not necessarily hearing. I don't know which category that fed into, so I did it now. Thank you.
Next topic then is architecture, which you kind of addressed. Yes. Are there any other comments about architecture? Commissioner Lynn, tell me.
Yeah, I do appreciate the changes that the applicant made in response to the community and the SPRC's comments on the original design of it. It is definitely improved. I still think it's not quite up to the level of a lot of other True Ground projects, which are really good. I've always been impressed by True Ground and the quality of the architecture, that they look like market rate housing, which they should. This one is not quite up to that level of quality. It might be because of simply the size of it and the blockiness. I don't know, but it is an improvement. I recognize that, and because of that, I'm definitely supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Amadeo.
I've been making lots of comments about the architecture during the SPRC meetings, and I have seen that they've come a long way. I do agree with Commissioner Lantelmi that there's still way that we can improve. So I'm hoping that during the design process, and once you start really putting in, all the apartments, all the different functions, that some light comes into this, building, that the alignment of some of the shapes is still a little bit off to me. So I'd be glad to continue being like a fly on the wall, or even bigger than that, for this project, because I really do care about it.
Thank you. Commissioner Peterson?
Thank you. Well, first, I'm really excited about the project. I'm excited to see us make a big jump of 10% towards our goals for affordable housing on our Langston Boulevard plan. I'm really excited about the family size units that you all will be providing, especially a 4-bedroom unit or 2, which I don't think I've ever seen in my time on the commission, but that really gives the opportunity for larger families to have a place to live. My sister has 7 children, and this could, theoretically be a place for her. Or for families that want to have multi-generational living. So I think this is really exciting. Super excited as well about the 30% AMI. The question that I did have was just more generally, if you can talk through some of the trade-offs about the type A accessible units. I think you're offering 6 out of 249. So, why not offer more? Are the units more expensive to build? Do they take up more space? So therefore you're giving up some of the bedrooms. Do a certain number of units require different fire code requirements? Like, why not offer more units that are type A accessible?
So I can take that. So in terms of accessible units, we typically try to be conscious of how many we provide. In essence, we want to make sure that we're balancing out the number of accessible units, as also many residents that come in and that all come as tenants don't necessarily might have that accessibility requirements. We typically try to provide 5 to 10%. I think in this case we're doing 5%. We're doing 5%. Yeah. So as more funding becomes available, we tend to either migrate to a higher percentage. Many of our projects we will stay between 5 and 10%. At this point, there's some fundings that have not been available. Hence, we're more limited as far as we can do.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Torres, did you have another comment or question?
I'll just add that my concern is, in this particular area, if the building doesn't look like if this building wasn't affordable, would it be designed in the same way? And so that's one of my concerns, because I think that we don't want to make, I love that it's affordable, but I want to make sure that the architecture matches a normal design in this area.
Thank you. Okay, next topic is transportation parking within and around the perimeter of the property. Any comments? Questions? Yes, it would be parking as well.
Okay, so
Commissioner Peterson, go.
Thank you. I wanted to follow on to the point that Commissioner Lentelmi was making from the Transportation Commission. I brought this up during the SPRC process. This site is going to see a 5 times increase in the number of kids that are hanging around, playing around, biking around. And so the fact that we are putting an unprotected bike lane on the street that kids will be using to get to Glebe Elementary, the street that kids will be using to get to Washington Liberty, makes me really uncomfortable. If the kids are riding down the street in this unprotected bike lane and if the driver opens their car door, that kid is going to get doored, they're going to get thrown into traffic, and that is a very, very dangerous situation. So as a mother, I would tell my kids, don't ride in that unprotected bike lane, ride on the sidewalk, which then jeopardizes the safety of pedestrians. So for this particular area and for other similar sites, I don't understand why, when we are redoing a street anyway, why don't we just paint the street so that you have a protected bike lane that is protected just by nature of the fact that there are parked cars on the street. I know that's not the county policy. I know that's not what the MTP says right now. I really call upon staff to talk to the Bike Advisory Committee and find out, how are they thinking about this? How are mothers thinking about this? Women are generally considered an indicator species, the so-called term that says, when a community's infrastructure is safe enough, you have achieved like a parity of gender where men and women are both out there cycling, where mothers are taking their kids cycling. And I think when you have these unprotected bike lanes, that contributes to the fact that we don't have gender parity in our cyclists on the street. So I really think that staff needs to go back and look at whether it is acceptable to have unprotected bike lanes when we are looking at opportunities to repaint the streets anyway, and especially when we're looking at areas where there are so many kids that are going to be cycling to and from school and around. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia.
Hi, thank you. I'm not sure whether to ask this question now or later, so I'm going to throw it out now. I did have a question for the applicant. We just heard a speaker talk about really the importance of electric vehicles and having enough parking for electric vehicles. And I think, we can all see as the years go by, we have more and more everywhere on the streets. And so I'd like to hear a little bit more about how many parking spaces you are planning for electric vehicles, and if the possibility would exist to increase the amount.
Yeah. So I'll take a first part, then I'll pass it on to our construction manager who can expand. But essentially, we would like to, in the perfect world, we would provide more EV-ready spaces. The limiting factor is essentially cost and the transformers that have been placed. So essentially, we did a study based on the current transformers we have. We're able to provide up to 10 spaces. Going above that requires more additional transformers, which then essentially what that does is we have to be able to balance out the priorities between the greenway, the existing trees, because then that expands essentially the area the path that's required for the transformers. Behind that building right now, we are providing a vault. We're preserving the trees. There's an existing storm sewer line that we're also maintaining. We're also providing a couple of bio retentions as well as the transformer pad. So the limiting factor is that, and also in addition is essentially the other factor is cost. And I'll pass it on to Ted. Maybe he can expand.
Good evening. My name is Ted Collison. With Casey, I'm going to represent Drew Round. So we are kind of at an inflection point with the size of our transformers, as Jordy had mentioned, and that is the challenge. We don't have the physical space, and we couldn't even if we undergrounded it, we wouldn't have the space. It was not the space within the property line or outside the street in order to be able to put vaults. We have 10 cars. We might be able to get up to 15, but obviously we're right in the process of entitlement, so all these numbers aren't tied down exactly. So we do have anywhere from, we have 10, maybe 15 car charging stations, and we will have EV charging stations for the bikes. So we will have those provisions. If we can add more, we will add more, but again, we're limited by the transformer sizes, the size of our service.
No, thank you so much. I think it was interesting as we heard a speaker earlier talk about the, innovative ways that we can use, charging, more efficient charging stations, balance the load. I think, when we talk about affordability, right, we have affordable units, but gas is expensive most of the time. And of course, you have access to public transportation, but I think it's important to really consider, the accessibility of EV chargers for bikes and cars.
Understood. Thank you.
Commissioner Rivera.
I also going along the lines of having EV ready. I'm wondering, have you guys explored not just EV ready, but EV capable, just to have additional options? I know E2C2 mentioned sent a letter to you guys to explore that. As Commissioner Kateri mentioned, gas is very expensive, so looking at more holistically what we're providing the residents also contributes to affordability. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Commissioner Patel.
So I think that maybe Commissioner Berkey's comment earlier is maybe a little more instructive on the point about what resident experiences are in this space around EV ready and EV capable. I think it would have been lovely to hear how many people actually have electric vehicles, because frankly, those 15 spots may be enough, because we haven't come to that place where it's balancing out for people who are going to need housing at 30 to 60% AMI. It's not. And so, yes, the price of gas is expensive, but so is the price of electric vehicles. And I think we need to be mindful of what it is that we are attempting to achieve here, not only right now, but also in the future. So Commissioner Guevara's point around EV capable is certainly a good one. But where do we actually have that tipping point in terms of the individuals who will be residing at this location, for us to start to see that? And we have other spaces, other places with True Ground's portfolio to better understand what the needs are of the residents who live in those buildings, to determine what needs to be there on site. So I don't know if you have some of that information that says, hey, this is going to be okay for us for X, Y, and Z period of time. It's not going to, I find it hard to believe that it's going to change people's behaviors in terms of deciding whether they're going to get an electric vehicle because there's 15 spots downstairs right now, particularly if there's going to be a commitment from True Ground to say, we will figure something out in terms of making that available for cars in the future. I will just say that, my particular understanding of other buildings that look the same, this is going to meet the need right now and for the foreseeable future.
So I guess to kind of answer your question, we did look at just the current building, how many people have electric vehicles, and the answer was that none. I don't have that information about our other buildings, but that's something we can definitely take a look at. Overall, that hasn't been necessarily sort of a demand that we have seen from residents through our asset management. Our program is really based on community feedback, but definitely I can look into other projects where we have provided EV spaces and how those are being utilized, if there are any electric vehicles that are being utilized.
No, I appreciate that. And I think the point is maybe a little bit more rhetorical is, let's make sure that we understand what it is that we're doing in a particular space. It doesn't mean that we're closing off avenues for opportunities to be certainly where we want to be, right? But there are reality. The reason why we have a building like this is because there are realities and solutions we're trying to provide. And when we are trying to provide those solutions, there is the inner ring of people that we are trying to provide solutions for, right? So the residents here, the tenants here, what is it that they need before we start adding costs and eliminating units because we want to put some amenities that may not be of benefit to the people who live there. Thank you.
Commissioner Berkey, then Commissioner Peterson.
Sure, I'll start by saying I associate myself with Commissioner Patel's remarks. So if I'm hearing the applicant, if we stipulate that this is something that we want, which is more EV capable spots, the two impediments are essentially space and cost. Am I hearing that right? It's the space for an extra transformer or more, and it's the cost, right, to the project. So thinking out loud, but to me, thinking like as a body for the Planning Commission, so the cost is something that we may have some influence over, we may not. That might be something that's like a state legislative thing, because with these affordable housing projects, these applicants have to fit within these financial boxes, right? There's a lot of entities, they're getting tax credits, that sort of thing. So maybe that's something we have influence over, maybe it's not. The space issue, I think we definitely have some influence over, which is that, you know, what the applicant is telling us is like, look, we're doing all these other things to provide community benefits. We've got the green wave, we've got the biophilia, you didn't mention the biophilia, but like other things, right? And we sort of, we want to do these things to enhance this site, and we're mitigating density and all that, but like they're trade-offs. Like it's not perfect. Like the transformers is a good example. Like I don't love where they're proposed to be on the site, but it's a trade-off because everything has to sort of fit. So like I still support this project because we just can't get everything we want all the time. So I think if we're serious about, as a commission, of saying this is something we want to pursue, which is having more projects, and by the way, Mr. Bloom's comments, I really appreciate you coming tonight and articulating this, because I think it's worth discussion. But if this is something we want to do, I think we have to think, how do we make space? And that might be trade-offs. And then how do we help with the cost? And maybe that's trade-offs, but also maybe like other things that we can't necessarily do, right? So I think we need to think about the impediments and how we can play a role in solving them versus just like hashing it out every time we have a site plan. Thank you.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yeah, I just wanted to recommend that perhaps you are able to speak with Arlington's AIR team to just see if they have any recommendations on this front. I agree that if you do not have residents that need EV parking right now, it doesn't make sense to spend a lot of resources and money providing EV parking. But I think if you can look into EV capable, how expensive is it? Is it a moderate cost? We're looking at a project that is going to last 30 years. So because people don't need these spaces right now doesn't mean they won't need it in 15 years. And as somebody who lives in a high rise that was built in the 90s, it is very, very hard. Like our building cannot figure out how to make it possible for people to park their electric vehicles. And so then we have, you know, a lot of units of people that can't get an electric vehicle. So just kind of thinking, what are the things that we could do to at least set yourselves up? Maybe, you know, putting the conduit in, but not the wires. Maybe having some level 1 or level 2 charging stations, just some plugs, like whatever is the kind of lowest hanging fruit that wouldn't have a big impact on cost. And I think the AIR team might be able to help you out with that. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a question on parking, and this goes back to a number of the correspondence and things that I saw from the neighbors about their concern about parking into the neighborhood. I guess I appreciate the slide that you brought that talks about the parking ratios. What I'm more interested in is your experience in some of the buildings. For instance, in my own neighborhood, I have heard from area residents that the parking from Terwilliger has impacted the neighborhood. So and there are communications that go on to, you know, try to help this. So number one, I'm going to assume that you will continue neighborhood conversations, civic association conversations, but what happens if the ratios turn out to be a problem? What is, just for the benefit of the neighbors who brought this up, what is the resolution? How do you address that? Thank you.
I can speak to that, and Jordy might want to chime in as well. But yeah, I think so. We did look at some of the most comparable sites that are comparable to this one in terms of location to metro rail, transit, things like that. And those were the ones that we looked at as part of this process. I think the existing Lecky site was probably the most interesting because that actually shows on this site exactly what they're experiencing. And so I think some of the between that one and then the others that were largely along Columbia Pike, I think it gave us comfort that this is the right ratio. We did also, when we were out looking at these the parking, we went out at like 11 p.m. or so. So that's typically what we see as the kind of the peak time for parking. We saw that there was some on-street spaces available as well. So I think that gave additional comfort that there's some space around the kind of proximity if for some reason there needed to be people parking in that area. And so I think the other comment is just that I think the site will be part of a transportation management plan. So I think there will be kind of ongoing monitoring that will occur, at the typical intervals with the county, so that's something that will continue to be studied. I think, one of the things that program looks at is like garage occupancy, just, trips to and from the site. So I think that is something that will be monitored as part of the county process moving forward.
Okay, I would strongly encourage that you maintain a great degree of community, feedback and things, just given the comments that have come up. This is for staff. And of course, I've just had a mind blank. Isn't that interesting? I'll get back to it. Thank you. Commissioner Guevara, and then Commissioner Lynn, tell me.
So I really appreciated your slide about the comparable affordable projects. I know that the average is actually 0.76 ratio, and you will be right now at the existing site, it's 0.7, and you're going to increase it to 0.82% sort of ratio. And so I feel comfortable with moving this project forward, because while I know that the residents have expressed concern, I think this is actually an improvement on the current conditions. I also think, going back to Commissioner Berkey's comment about sort of trade-offs, that we need to make trade-offs as a community. If we're going to go with affordable housing plan and master plan and making sure that we have more units for our community, I think it's really a conversation, and we really need to get to the point where we're prioritizing people over cars and parking spaces. Thank you.
Commissioner Lantelmi.
Yes, I agree with what Commissioner Guevara has just said. Some points, and these may have come up at SPRC. At the current Lecky Garden site, do the tenants have to pay if they want to have a parking spot in that lot?
No, they don't have to.
They do not. Are there any restrictions on the type of vehicles? Like if they had a pickup truck or a commercial van, would those be allowed to park there?
I don't have that answer for you, but I can get it for you. But my sense is typically they would not be allowed to park commercial vehicles on site.
Because that was one of the concerns that I'm not talking about like a dump truck. I'm talking about something that would be the size of a personal vehicle, a small van or a small pickup truck. The reason I'm asking, that was one of the concerns the neighbors had, is that commercial vehicles were taking up street parking. I did walk the site a couple of times in the evening and early on a weekend morning, and I absolutely agree that there's a number of parking spots that are simply not occupied on the current site. So I think the 0.7 really, I did some ground truthing, and yeah, it verifies that. So I'm totally comfortable that not every space is going to be used in the new building also. So I'm also comfortable with the ratio. But I think that you might want to think about what vehicles are allowed if they fit in the building and they're tenant owned, allowing them to do so, to keep it off the street. I think that would go a long way to alleviating concerns of the neighborhood, so that it does not adversely impact parking, the parking in the area. So thank you.
I have another question. Where would guests park?
We have 12 visitor spaces.
Okay.
Garage.
And if there's more than 12 visitors, they go,
There's also street parking.
okay. Staff question, I remember now. Is there RPP around, residential parking permit program around that area?
There is none, and site plans are not, they don't.
Well, I
get
know the site
RPP.
plans don't, but for the residents, neighborhoods, is RPP in effect there?
It hasn't been noticed.
I didn't
no.
think so. Okay, thank you. That is something, if neighbors are listening to this, that is something that you can certainly petition the county to have them come and look at, so to help you protect your spaces. Have we exhausted parking? Oh, nope, I take that back. Commissioner Amadeo and then Commissioner Torres.
The parking of large vehicles was one of the very first questions that came up during the meetings. I didn't quite hear the answer. You're not allowing parking of commercial vehicles?
There's no restriction.
There's no restriction. But from what I remember, one of the early exchanges we had, you mentioned that you were going to look into having some larger spots for those. I got.
Jen, can you answer that? The height of the.
Well, there are a few areas in the garage where you could park a larger vehicle, but the way the garage is designed, it's designed to clearance approximately 8'4".
Mhm.
So that would be the largest clearance that you could have for the vehicle, which are like some of the vans and the handicap vans. Those are usually that dictate the minimum clearance for the garage. So that would be the maximum for the vehicle to fit in. That would have to be within like 8'4", 8'6" maximum
Height.
clear height.
And just to add, so as part of that question that came up I think it was the first SBRC, we did look at the resident. So essentially looked at how many residents had registered vehicles. We went through those vehicles, and none of those vehicles were any sort of commercial vans that were being utilized. We also had a conversation with property manager and the maintenance manager, who's very involved on the committee and knows everybody, because there was a question about vans being parked on the street. And essentially it was alluded that our residents were parking vans on the street, but the case is that none of the residents have working vans. And what we had heard was that there was a construction site nearby, and some of those folks were leaving, those vans overnight. So from our end, right now the residents do not have any sort of working vehicles.
I guess the follow-up would be if many of the residents would get commercial vehicles, can adjustments be made to the parking situation so that they don't park all over the streets? Well, you could
I think
so you could
I think first, all of the vehicles that do park on the site are registered, so we know what vehicles the residents are using. And so there was this initial assumption, I think, in the community that these vehicles were Lucky Gardens residents' vehicles. And we proved that not to be the case, and we know that because we literally know what vehicles they have. They have to register
the
them.
projection that they might be also.
But I guess my second point is, if they did want to park those vehicles on the site, they could. And in other words, there's no restriction. So it's not as though they're not parking there because they can't park there.
No, I hear you. It's just that some of them are a little larger. That's really the point that we made early on.
Yeah. I think we're already limited in our garage. Obviously, we already have, only so many spaces, and the challenge is if we were to expand any of those spaces, we would lose spaces. And so I think we did look at this very carefully, and we determined that the reality is that the residents, none of them now, and for the most part at other communities, don't have those types of vehicles. Okay. Whereas most that want to park in the site have standard size vehicles. And so again, it's a question of trade-offs, and the experience was just not bearing out that there was a need for commercial parking inside the building.
Could I make a quick point about the electric vehicle? The electric vehicle controversy is really kind of big because the technology keeps changing. And so to to create an infrastructure that addresses one type of technology for electric vehicles. I don't know how much longer, because they already have static charging, dynamic charging that is wireless, for instance. So it's a different technology that's being advanced in Sweden, and actually they have a pilot program in Detroit. And so anyway, just a little side note that, maybe electric vehicles look very different very soon.
Good to know. Thank you. Commissioner Torres, did you have a comment?
I do. Well, first of all, I really want to support this project. I really, really do. However, parking is an issue for me because I don't think cars and parking spaces are important, but I think that having one parking lot at least per unit is so important, because as much as I want to be in an area where we are a car-free designed Arlington, we're just not. It's a necessity for people to have a car, especially for people that might be living in these units, not just to go to work, but also because they might have kids and they might need to take them to school or events. So as much as I want it to be a car-free area, we're just simply not designed in that way right now in Arlington or most of the United States, as much as I would want. So I think I understand that you use comparable design for this building, but I think Arlington as a whole is not taking into account that parking is already an issue, even without adding density, not just for businesses, but residents. But it's going to become more of an issue if we don't really examine this properly.
Okay, moving along now to open space and landscaping, including trees.
Thanks.
Commissioner Patel, then Commissioner Huvar, then Commissioner Robertson.
So I want to pick up on Dr. Burns' comment about the native trees. Can't believe it. But I found it interesting that there is an issue around not having native trees within the plan. So, we don't need to spend a lot of time on this. I just am going to impress upon you guys to make sure that the trees are native. I mean, at the very least, his concern about not being North American is like a problem, but we don't have to spend any time on this comment. I just say, at the end of the day, please make sure they're native trees. Thank you. And plantings. Let's extend it to the plantings as well. Thank you.
Commissioner Huvar.
I would like to associate myself with Commissioner Patel's comments about having North American native trees. I did notice from your renderings that there's a lot of impervious areas within the sort of courtyard, and I was wondering if there were more opportunities to put more trees there so that you're increasing the tree canopy, since right now if that tree dies you'll be at 29% as opposed to the 35% minimum that is sort of our goal.
David, do you want to speak to the efforts we've made to find space for trees?
Yes. Hey, I'm David Jebb with Studio 39. We're the landscape architects in the project. And in the courtyard, we pretty much maxed out what we can. There's a soil volume issue where you have to have a certain soil volume for the trees to count them for canopy coverage. And right now we are, the large planters we have in there are maxing out the trees we have in there, or to get the canopy coverage. And also what we do have in the courtyard is we have some, we do have pavers, but we also have some artificial turf areas, which is permeable. So it's not quite all hard surface. So there will be some soft surfaces, and also the playground area, we have a surfacing on that as well. So it's not all really hardscape in there.
And were there other opportunities to sort of increase? I think this is more sustainability, but maybe, okay. Sort of biophilia. I was looking at the renderings as well. And, I recently chaired the SPRC for the Alexan building, and there was just beautiful sort of rendering of where you have interaction with nature. And I don't see that much of the development there. It's just like, okay, you have that little greenway, but there isn't, I saw 1 or 2 benches maybe, but it didn't seem like a space where the community could really gather, or it could be more inviting so that there's an interplay with the environment. Particularly, you know, there's going to be a lot of children. I know there's a little playground in the inside, but still it could be, we could make, I would think, or I would hope, ways to make the space more inviting, particularly where the transformers are. Maybe there could have been an opportunity for, you know, green walls around it, or yeah, I was just curious if you explored those elements. And I was also wanted to follow up. Again, this is more sustainability, but I know C2 reached out to you about potentially moving from LEED's silver to gold, and you guys said would explore it, but I don't think we've received a response on that yet. I'm just curious where that stands.
You want to go to the lead first? I'll talk about the trees.
Yeah.
So we looked at this area quite heavily, and the big thing for us is to maintain the 35% canopy coverage, and impacting any of those trees would bring us below that threshold. And talking with staff, doing any kind of like people talk about walkways and things like that to kind of walk through there, but any kind of disturbance to the area will start impacting the roots. So the reason we didn't actually put a hard surface in there, we left it more organic, more natural. We did put the benches and some a picnic table in there to kind of activate it a little bit. People can get in there. We just not have a defined path because we want to make sure we maintain the trees and the root safety on this. If that answered your question.
Okay, and what about the LEED certification changes?
Yeah, so I can talk about that. So we've looked at going to LEED Gold. So in essence, we're trying to balance out the different sort of requirements that we need to meet. In this case, sustainability, constructability, cost containment, long-term operability. And essentially, in sort of going to LEED Gold, it requires us to being able to sort of limit in certain ends. So as far as LEED, there are different points, right, that we can get. But we're sort of at the limit where any of the points to kind of get to that threshold would limit some of the materials that we might be able to use. It could increase the cost on the construction cost. And at this point, essentially, we're trying to manage balance. We're trying to balance that out to ensure that from here until closing, and in essence, if everything goes well, we're anticipating to close sometime in mid-27. As you know, inflation and cost contractions keep rising. We're still sort of on the hook until we can close, and essentially being able to go to LEED Gold could potentially hinder our ability to close if the budget goes up. So that being said, I just wanted to kind of go over what we are providing. So in essence, we're meeting the LEED certification silver, energy optimization, while 20% improvement in the building energy performance is required. We're currently noting about 22% improvement. We're also providing waste diversion. The project will divert at least 75% of construction waste. We're meeting Energy Star certification. The project will target post-occupancy Energy Star certification with a minimum score of 75. The project's current score, projected score, is 86. We discussed some of the EV spaces. We're providing 10 EV-ready spaces. As far as light pollution, the project will select dark sky qualified light fixtures for at least 90% of exterior lighting, excluding emergency or code required fixtures. And also, we're also looking to meet the Energy Star MFNC certification. The project will pursue the EPS Energy Multifamily New Construction Certification, which focuses on demonstrating improved energy efficiency and fight thermal envelope. So in essence, just want to say that we're sort of limited as far as how much we can do. And as you know, our affordability is capped at 60%. So we want to also be able, that also limits as far as how much debt we can get for the project. So at some point we have to sort of find, be able to find the right balance.
I understand. Thank you. I appreciate that sort of answer. The only thing I will say is that often in projects, we see that sort of interplay and a bit of conflict, it seems, between our affordable housing goals and also the environment. If there's any way that maybe in the future, as financing sort of proceeds, that you take that more into consideration, because it will deeply impact the residents, right? If you don't have as much electrification, if you don't have more efficient energy building, like the the utilities costs will be higher. And so I think just taking a more broader approach and considerations that would ultimately benefit your residents as well. But I understand the financing constraints you are facing, so thank you.
Commissioner Robertson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of questions and maybe a comment. For the applicant, what's the status of any discussions, if there are any discussions, with the owners of the Lehigh Shopping Center about the possibility of undergrounding the power lines?
So we've been in discussions with the owners over there for the better part of a year now, and we've provided certain proposals and other things that we think would be a good idea for construction beyond even the undergrounding issue. There's a lot of coordination that has to go on since we're adjacent to their site. Those discussions are still in progress. They have hired an attorney to review the proposal. Our understanding is that's still under review. We haven't really gotten any substantive responses yet, if you will, from them. They're well aware of where we are in the project timeline. You know, we've done everything we can to make those proposals, and we think is, you know, some good proposals as far as coordinating in that area. But it takes two to tango in this case. It's their property. And we need their consent to be able to go on to it.
And to the county staff, what's your opinion about why the applicant, despite from the county board report, your numerous conversations and objections to having the transformer vaults above ground rather than below ground, why is the applicant instead continuing to place them above ground?
Thank you for your question. Yeah, we asked the applicant for the possibility of undergrounding these vaults within the garage or within the sidewalk areas or driveways, wherever possible. There is a number of utilities in the area which impacts this, and we've had difficulty, I guess, like accepting the above grade transformers, but we have put a condition in the report that you will see that they will be screened from the public right away or along the sidewalks. Yep.
Madam Chair, I'm not often a fan of letting the perfect be the enemy of the good. I am occasionally in favor of letting the better be the enemy of the good. We've heard concerns expressed about, and there's no doubt that this is a good project. We've heard concerns expressed about architecture, about unprotected bike lanes, about trees, about transformers, about parking. I think the applicant can and should do better. Thank you.
And I think we are going to move, oh, actually, I do have a couple quick questions, not to belabor the tree issue. However, this is kind of a general bucket right here. Going to Dr. Burns' comments, can you re-examine the use of cultivars versus native species? Cultivars are not the best. I'm a master gardener. They're not the best. So can you re-examine that?
We can take a look at this.
Thank you.
A question though on that is sometimes with spatial constraints, the cultivars, even though they are a cultivar, they kind of fit within a space. And I know in trying to create some biophilic elements along the sidewalk on Woodstock, is we did push the building off the sidewalks. We had a landscape strip there, and we are going to put shrubs in there, but we want to make sure we have a shrub that's going to fit in the space. So like there's a native or a nakeberry, it's going to go 8 feet wide, 8 feet tall.
Yeah, our preference would be, we really would like the reliance more so on the native.
Right, no, it'd be a native. It'd be a native species, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, will you be including common milkweed?
It's on the list already. Yes.
Thank you. All right. Couple other things too. There seems to be a discrepancy between what I've heard about you believe the tree, the pin oak, is going to be okay, and staff maybe doesn't think it's going to be okay, or should I say our arborist, our staff arborist does not believe it's going to. What information do you have that?
So to start off the process, when we started going through the process of kind of delineating square footages, disturbances of roots and things like that, we were looking at the ordinance of 2024, which allowed for up to 30% of the critical root zone to be, I mean, if it were impacted. And we had originally had a 25% impact on the critical root. And then we went down to, with the new redesign, it went down to 23.35. So it's still below that old threshold, but actually on the day of or day after we submitted our first plan, the understanding roots and tree roots and impacts with construction came out. I think Vincent was the author of that, and it went down to 10%. But we were still going off of the original ordinance of 30%. We have every anticipation of this tree living, hopefully. And what we're going to do is mitigate it with all kinds of trees, root pruning, trees or aeration, whatever we can do to save this tree. Because it does help us get us to that 35. We're right at 35.05% canopy coverage with that tree.
And what measures do you have in place to protect not just that tree, but the other things that are there during construction?
We're going to be putting up tree fencing, the chain link fencing, and we'll make sure people stay out during the construction process. They will stay out of those areas.
Okay. Also, let's see here. I want to make sure I have covered everything. The planter strips being 8 feet by desire versus where you're at now. Is there any way to help address where you're at?
In order to have the 6-foot sidewalk, and on the actual sector plan, it is a 6-foot landscape strip. I would be all for having a 7 to 8 foot landscape strip, but we designed it to the standards of the plan with the 6 foot, unfortunately.
Okay. For the purposes of brevity, because I want to move on to other things here, but where I grew up, the affordable housing projects did not have the trees. They had like sand lots. They didn't have the benefit of some of the neighborhoods where we actually have trees, and it's really nice. For the mental, physical, emotional well-being of your residents, I strongly encourage you, take a look at some of what Forestry and Natural Resources said, see if you can work with them, attempt to make this as pleasant and as healthy for not just your residents, but really for the county as we struggle with our tree canopy and the loss of wildlife and the loss of native bees and other things that we have seen. So whatever you can do to work with that, I think will go a long way. And just for the record here tonight, a lot of these questions are going to, as you might guess, also come up at the county board. So, you know, this might be a great way for you to kind of say, okay, I need to add this or delete that or do the slides. Last question on this, bird-friendly glass, do you have that?
Oh, currently the way the building is designed, we have we are using standard glass. Usually for the bird-friendly glass, there are special frits and other things. They are designed into the glass itself. But currently, the way we have a more standard glass. I mean, we would be lower reflective glass and stuff that don't confuse birds of flight. But no, we would not have the special type of frit glass, and it's used extremely rarely on the building. So this type.
I didn't catch the last part of what you said. It's used extremely.
This type of glass, it's not extremely often that you offer that you provide it on the entire building, like for like the entire that fritting part and the vision glass of the whole building, like on every window.
You're not providing it on any.
We are not providing. We are using standard glass, but with lower reflectivity. But it's not a bird-friendly glass as per se, but with the frit pattern on it.
Is there a reason, I'm sorry, Chair Bagley, is there a reason why you're not using bird-friendly glass?
We just, that's how we normally we're using standard glass we use on most of our residential projects.
But other than the fact that that's what you do, is there some reason? Is it a cost reason? Like what's the reason?
Well, there's definitely on the bird-friendly glass, there's also a cost reason, but there is also a certain pattern that is actually in the glass that you can actually kind of little see also when you are inside the building. Because of the pattern that it's usually used on the bird-friendly glass.
I think I'm gonna say this kind of honestly. I think you're losing a lot of people right here on this commission because you're not using bird-friendly glass. That is standard for the projects that we look at. So I think had we not gotten to this point with Chair Bagley asking this question, and I'm not gonna, this is no reflection on you, Commissioner Berkey, but it is a normal question that comes up during SPRC. So I think many of us are hearing this for the first time, and I think somebody will likely be making a motion that this building needs to have bird-friendly glass.
I would like to further that by saying I personally wanted to figure out how to bird-friendlyize some glass in Michigan. And I went to the Forestry and Natural Resources Commission, and David Howell sent me a bunch of information on very inexpensive resources that you don't have to necessarily do the frittering and all this other stuff. I would think that that would be something that residents might even want to be a part of. Oh, let me pick my design that goes on the window. Trust me, these are very inexpensive decal things that are available, but something should be done. Again, this is all about the community being able to be in a place that they probably haven't been able to be in the past, where there has been more green and nature and stuff, and you want to further that. You don't want to, put it backwards. So I would just say you need to try a little harder on that. There's a whole bunch of free resources within the county and the commissions that can help you with that. Commissioner Farr.
Oh, no, if, I don't know if you wanted them to answer or that was because I have a call. I promise I'll keep them brief.
Go ahead. Keep it brief.
As with Commissioner Peterson and mentioned about, I really do feel now as we're getting more into the conversation, and it's unfortunate that it's 9 o'clock when we're getting into it, but I do feel like there's a lot of more robust sort of thinking that you could have done with this project. It's really, it's astonishing really that we're at this point and there's been not as much consideration as I would have thought, both for the environment, for adopting options that could be cheaper. I know Commissioner Amado mentioned, there's new technologies that could be emerging that could actually, help lower cost with bird-friendly glass, which is something that we routinely see, all the way to my comments about biophilia, that I don't see that it's as imaginative as it could be, seeing other projects, and actually having been at True Ground facilities that you have already obviously done. So I'm just really remiss that we're at this juncture, and it really saddens me because it's a great project. And I'd like to associate myself with Commissioner Bagley, which she mentioned. This is an amazing opportunity to increase, the number of caps that we have in that. And it just seems like the first opportunity we have to do this, we're not even pushing the envelope quite a bit. We're sort of providing the bare minimum. And I think that's really sad. Not just for for current and future residents. So that's all I want to say.
I have a comment.
Mr. Peters.
Okay, I just want to, so I am a person that usually calls for like all the biophilia in the world. I'm usually the one that's asking about bird-friendly glass. But I also am so appreciative of the potential of this project to achieve some of our very important goals for Plan Langston Boulevard. And it is providing units at deeply affordable rates. It is providing the family-sized units. A lot of times when we're talking about bird-friendly glass and more biophilia, we are asking a for-profit developer who, they're going to be charging like $3,000, $5,000, $7,000, $9,000 a month for their units. And so I'm okay asking them like, okay, maybe provide a little bit more to the community and on behalf of sustainability. But every additional thing that we ask this applicant to do, it's going to have to, in order for the financing to work out, it's going to have to come out of something else. So we're maybe going to get one less unit for each extra parking spot that we require, because parking spots are very expensive to put underground. A lot of times when we are seeing bird-friendly glass in a project or seeing EV charging stations, it's because the applicant is applying for the Green Building Incentive Program, and those are some of the requirements in order to earn your extra density. But the applicant doesn't have to earn extra density here because they're giving us so much affordable housing, which is amazing. And so as a person who is usually the one asking for all of these green and sustainable things, I don't want to lose all of the wonderful things that this project is providing to get those extra things. I mean, we should have beautiful biophilia in an affordable housing property. We should have no dead birds around the sidewalks at an affordable housing site where kids are going to be playing and seeing these poor little dead birds. But I also, I want this project to succeed. I think it can succeed. If there is an issue with the birds around the building, we can get stickers to put on the windows. And so I just wanted to say that I really think this project is fantastic, and I hope that we do vote to approve it tonight. Thank you.
Commissioner Garcia.
100 years. No, just kidding. Thank you. I did actually, 100 years. I did just want to make one positive comment. While we're talking about all the things we wish we had. I did really want to say that I appreciated that, all the stormwater retention work that was in the design. In the Langston Boulevard area plan, this area was cited as having stormwater issues. And so I did want to just highlight that I appreciated all the work about the bioretention planters and stormwater retention vaults. And I think that those were great additions. One last comment, I am supportive of this project, and I know that this would not be changed at this time, but I do also generally think it's valuable to have open spaces that are not closed in buildings and that are accessible to all. And I worry that it's not going to get a lot of light and be used, whether it's by children or whomever. But obviously that is, I know we're late in the process and just wanted to get that on record.
Yeah, it's
Commissioner Steinberger, and then Commissioner Patel.
So I think this question is actually for staff who I can't see because of where the dais is, but that's okay. Hi. Okay, sure. But in terms of bird-friendly glass, or what are typical approaches for, our typical approaches for that, do we typically have site plan conditions or requirements to approach that? I thought above a certain height and in certain flight path plan bird things, we do.
So you typically see bird-friendly glass on projects that are utilizing the Green Building Incentive Policy. So as Commissioner Peterson stated, that is what
that comes from. So there's no standard site plan condition that requires bird-friendly glass. They are not utilizing the Green Building Incentive Program, so we cannot require bird-friendly glass on this project. So GBIP, not standard site plan condition.
Okay, so that's where it comes into, is with the Green Building Incentive Plan, and that's not applicable here for, okay. So I would simply say that, and Commissioner Peterson used the term dead birds, I think I counted 3 times. So dead birds are not a great look for anyone. So I would think that we would want to have a plan going into the building that would address those. I'm not, interested in making the building more expensive for the sake of making a building more expensive. But I also think that if the approach is going to be to use one of the suggestions that Commissioner Bagley alluded to, the decals or what have you, then that needs to be something that the building is providing. That needs to be something that the building is telling residents they have to do. That needs to be part of the conditions for living on the site. Something that will address how to meet standards to create an environment where you will not have the dead birds, and overall make the environment more pleasing to live in. So I'm not going to hold the project up because it doesn't have bird-friendly glass. I don't think bird-friendly glass is a one-size-fits-all, uniform, like this is the only way to get to the end result you want, which, let me be clear, is living birds. So I do think that needs to be a plan for how the building is approached. And I think what you're hearing, and I recognized it late in the evening, what you're hearing is legitimate surprise from commissioners that this has not been addressed already, because we almost never get to this point. Like 9 times out of 10, I think Commissioner Bagley asked that question expecting you to say, yes, of course, we have bird-friendly glass. This is our plan. The fact that that was not the response has generated this conversation. Thank you.
Commissioner Patel.
Yeah, I mean, I want to kind of bring this back in a little bit to say I know I can look at Commissioner Berkey's face and see how contrary to our process this really is, in terms of many of the questions that have been raised tonight are part of the SPRC process and should have been raised at the SPR process and do not deserve to be here right now from the dais. Friends, really, right? I mean, we are here at 9:07 now because 90% of the comments this evening were SPRC questions. So I can understand that frustration, and I will align myself with and associate myself with that frustration that you are seeing on Commissioner Berkey's face. With that said, I think that there's a couple of loose ends that I would hope that we could just tie up right now and say, yes, perhaps this building design is not as good as your other portfolio, as the other designs in your portfolio. There is still room to make some changes, and we encourage you to do so. There are opportunities for you to increase biophilia at this particular site. We encourage you to do so. There are opportunities for you to make the glass bird friendly. We encourage you to do so. On that specific point, I would say many of the residents that you are supporting find themselves severely impacted by disinvestment in their lives, right? And so they may be particularly sensitive to seeing dead birds at the front of their building and around their building, and that's not okay. So any way that you can figure out how to make sure that that doesn't happen, it's not just for the birds, it is for the trauma that many people who reside at this building are experiencing. Who will reside at this building are experiencing. The other thing is like the EV vehicles. We have spent a lot of time that should have been spent at SPRC having this conversation, but there's a bigger question when we're talking about accessibility around parking, and that is for the people who require accessibility. It seems like maybe 12 parking spots aren't going to be enough, and now we have 15 EV spots that are likely going to be unused. And so I'm hoping that there is some thoughtful consideration around how you can repurpose some of those EV spots to ensure that you have ample guest parking, particularly for the residents who need assistance. I think the other conversation that I would have wanted to have, but it's now almost 9:10 on a largely uncontroversial project, is one with staff around transportation. Particularly, we are now onlining a building that is higher density in a space that contrary to one of our public speakers, this is a highway. It's Route 29, and there is significant traffic on there. And Commissioner Militelmi and I can argue till the cows come home on how utilized it is or how underutilized it is. But I will say in the morning and in the rush hour, to Commissioner Peterson's prior comments around the safety of children when they're going to school, this is a bigger issue. And to say that we can just stay at the same timing on Langston Boulevard when this building ultimately comes online and in connection with the other buildings that will be coming online, because Langston Boulevard really does hold, this particular planning area really does hold a lot of our hope for getting some more affordable housing online. And that will mean much more density. We need to start looking at this in a bigger, fuller way, and not just site specific and saying what the traffic impacts are going to be as a result of that project. So we've now got, this particular project with 248 units. Is that right? Did I get that number? 49 units. There's going to be another project. And so if we don't think about the impacts that came with these 249 when we online another project and we think about Langston Boulevard, I will be so much more correct than I am today. And Commissioner Lantelmi will be so much wronger. Right. And so we need to make sure that Langston Boulevard, particularly between Glebe Road and Spout Run, that there is something that is done, because it is a problem. It is a problem. So that none of that requires any commentary or any response, because we don't have the time for it, frankly. But I appreciate the fact that we probably could have resolved a lot of this at SPRC and not spent so much time here on the county's dime and the public's time. So thank you.
Okay, moving on to, which I think we kind of have discussed this already, green building and sustainability, including stormwater. Is there any last questions, comments on that? Okay, construction. The only thing I would say to the applicant is, again, robust community engagement to make sure everybody is fully aware of the, what's going on in construction. And I'll say this, I've said this before, a lot of times the people who are then in charge of construction on the site have never been to any of these meetings. They never heard from any neighbors. In their opinion, a naggy neighbor is a naggy neighbor. It's really, I think, to your benefit to make sure that whoever you have on the ground is apprised and is open to communication. Communication solves so many things in life. So please spend some time in that. I would appreciate. We do have, Commissioner Berkey and I did add another topic, which is affordable housing community benefits. Anyone have any questions or comments about that? Commissioner Guevara.
Again, thanks so much. This is great that there's going to be so many CAFs, particularly some that are 4-bedroom units, apologies. Arlington has about 10,000 residents who are in the 30% AMI range. I know you're providing 11 units at that AMI, and the vast majority are at 60%. Did you guys explore doing another breakdown of, let's say, 70%, and then allow it, which would allow for more 30% AMI units? And if so, and also, what is the breakdown of the 11 AMI units? Are they 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom? Is any of the 4 bedrooms, will they be at 30% AMI?
So the breakdown of the 30% AMI units is 5 1-bedroom units, 4 2-bedroom units, and 2 3-bedroom units. The 4-bedroom units are currently on the 60% of AMI. And to answer your question, as far as whether having more 30% of AMI units, typically our breakout of AMIs is really to be able to, we apply for 9% tax credits. So we typically try to stay as competitive as possible to be able to win those 9% tax credits, which essentially allows us to close a significant amount of the gap. But at the same time, we have to balance that out with being able to underwrite the debt. And the challenge is that going to more 30% AMI units increases the financing gap, which then essentially makes the project not feasible. So in a lot of the AMI breakdowns is just trying to balance that out, trying to balance to make sure that we're still providing submission, but at the same time that we're able to close on the project.
I understand. I suppose to make that offset, what I was suggesting is having like some units at 70 or 80% AMI, for example, to allow for some of the other units to be at 30% AMI. And I understand that financing, obviously, with increased risk, it makes it more difficult to gain financing. But my comment is to say that there are a lot of residents that need at the 30% AMI level. So if there's any way to explore how to come to that to achieve more of those units, I think that would be really helpful. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay, I am going to go to one other topic, and that is called other, and this is for staff. As Commissioner Berkey was opining and has put forth a potential motion here, I'm just curious, having chaired a number of SPRCs and being the SPRC chair this year, how does it happen that someone from Lecky Gardens was not, and this is not an accusation, it's just I just need to, in my own mind, understand how this might happen, would not have been invited or given a seat at the SPRC?
Sure. So when we're creating our SPRC rosters, we use a set list of commissions and advisory groups that we reach out to then provide us with a representative. So we looked into this. We received requests from the public during the SPRC process. And as you know, this process went very quickly. So about halfway through, we received a request for a member of the Lecky Gardens community to be on the SPRC. But unfortunately, because of the fast pace of this project, we weren't able to identify a person and to appoint them to the SPRC, because as you know, that includes an amendment to the SPRC roster. However, there is some good news that comes of this. We did find, in speaking with Charles Sims with True Ground, we did find out that True Ground has a resident council, and it is comprised of residents of their communities. So moving forward with True Ground projects, we are hoping to be able to involve a member of the community. There are just some logistics we need to work through, such as not all of their projects are in Arlington, and not all of the commissioners on that resident council live in Arlington. So we are hopeful for the future that we can have better representation on the SPRC. We just don't have standard practice in place right now to accommodate for residents on a SPRC.
I mean, I just have to say I was kind of taken back, surprised that, I mean, in conversations with staff up until now, I mean, there's people physically there now. It should have just been a given, I thought. So
we understand, and we are also supportive of it. I think in the future, we're going to make much more of an effort in order.
So
for
we have corrected this.
Yes.
So for that reason, I will probably not be supporting the motion, because I think it sounds like we have.
It is. It's something we'll look into for all affordable housing projects. While we have identified a solution for True Ground projects, we are hoping to mitigate or, find a solution for this, yes, for all affordable housing projects.
Okay.
Can I make just one comment on that quickly?
Yeah.
I will just say, from my perspective as a civic association leader with many multi-residence units in our area, it is very, very challenging to get representatives from those buildings. And so I think, just to give a little break here to staff, you can ask all you want, but it doesn't mean that you're going to get active participants.
Well, and we have this same issue when, we have potential development coming up, and there are rental units around, trying to find anybody who, wants to resell. So it's not a reflection of that. It's just a reality that, we would ask, and it may be very challenging, but at least the question is asked. And then it's documented that we have asked. And so if somebody comes up at the 11th hour, then it solves that. Yes. Commissioner Berkey, then Commissioner Torres.
Kind of loop back, and I appreciate the question, appreciate the explanation. Commissioner Garcia, I think that's an astute point as well. That it's a commitment of time and finding folks to participate. It's not easy. I'm going to propose the motion because I think it is important, maybe not just at affordable housing projects, but anytime we have redevelopment, the sentiment isn't to require, it's really just to ask that the applicant make best efforts to advertise and solicit. They can't force anybody to participate, nor would we want them to. We just want them to make best efforts. True Ground historically has been, pretty good at community engagement within their own communities. So I'm confident that, just informally, this will be successful. I'm looking at all projects, right? Not just True Ground projects. This is important. So for us to at least maybe as a commission affirmatively state this is something we value, to at least try. I want to give credit to both Ms. Alice Hogan as well as our colleagues in the Housing Commission who raised this. And honestly, I take responsibility. It's something that I should have pushed harder on. And I think we have an opportunity in our next projects to do so. Thanks.
Commissioner Torres?
I guess I just want to know why it's difficult. Is it a language barrier? Is it we're not informing them properly? I mean, there has to be a reason. And the reason I'm concerned about this, and I didn't realize that this was the case, is when we see projects where the community actually engages and gives their feedback, we get wonderful projects that we're more than happy to approve. So, that's a big concern.
Staff, would you like to comment about some of the difficulty that we have sometimes with finding somebody in, say, either a large building or whatever? This is yes, Mr. Schreiber.
Hi, my name is Aaron Schreiber with the Planning Division. I'll help Chrissy with this because the question's about a larger perspective, I think, in terms of, challenges not just on this project, but I would also reflect back on what Commissioner Garcia said. And I know that she can speak from some recent projects in her civic association where there are severe challenges to getting residents to participate in SPRC. I think one of the big issues that we have faced in the past is that, one, from a communication perspective, trying to find the right contact. I think we've solved that over the last few years. We do have a database that we compiled over the last few years, getting all of the points of contact for residential buildings. So we're doing that outreach. But also there are times, and this is an example, the redevelopment proposal specifically is speaking to that building, and it is by the current resident's landlord who is proposing that. And there are sometimes issues of fear. I think I would hope that there's not intimidation, but what we have experienced is there's not always a great willingness for rental residents of those buildings who are directly having their house or their home being talked about for redevelopment. So that has been a significant challenge. We do that outreach. We still try and engage with residents. I think this is an interesting motion, but as Ms. Wallentish mentioned, that is something that we have had conversations with True Ground about. It was very heartening to hear about the work that they do on their council with all of their buildings. I just don't know if we're going to have as much success on some of the other market rate buildings when it's less of a collaborative process where residents are invited back. And so it's something for us, I think, to continue to work on. I will let you know of some things that we've done in the past. Again, Ms. Garcia is probably aware of this. When we were going through the River House project, we tried to engage residents. JBG Smith gave us the ability to put some flyers in the building to at least make the residents aware. We ended up getting some residents who participated in the conversation, but never do I think we had the willingness for members to sit at the SPRC table. But at least we have opportunities to go and engage. And I think that's where we found some success on some other projects. But a good motion we'll continue to explore. And I think that there's different engagement strategies we can take depending upon the type of project.
Mr. Patel.
So I have a comment. I will not be supporting your motion, Commissioner Berkey, and the reason why is because it is what it is, right? And we are saying it right now, saying that we need to do it. Any SPRC chair can make sure that we've made best efforts to do it. The reality is also It is a privilege that many do not have to spend this much time at a meeting. And there were a number of other people that were here at this meeting who have left because it's almost 9:30 at night. And to say that we are going to have, people are going to commit to that kind of time is a barrier across the spectrum. You don't have to be a renter to say time is a barrier. Time is a barrier for me right now, because I'm telling you, none of us thought this meeting was going past 9 o'clock, and here we are. Time is a barrier. And so who is going to willingly show up and say that they're going to continue to show up over and over and over again when we say it's one SPRC and it turns into 3 SPRCs, and you have no idea what it's going to look like. Nobody here tonight thought this was going to look like this. And so to say that we have to have a motion to require it, or even say that we're going to make best efforts, if all it is best efforts, then that's not motion worthy for me. It is, we're going to make best efforts, and everybody who's involved in that process is going to do it. Thank you.
Okay, and speaking of motions, Commissioner Berkey.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so I have 3 motions. So we'll go with the first one. I move that the Planning Commission recommend that the County Board approve the General Land Use Plan Amendment GLPA 25-00002. I think I got the zeros right. To change the designation from low medium residential to low office apartment hotel located at 2031 North Woodruff Street, RPC's number 07-01-0C-001 and -002.
Second.
Who seconded?
Commissioner Peterson.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Sure. Very briefly, I think we've had quite a considerable conversation tonight. The applicant has made a lot of changes. I am of the opinion that a lot of the issues that we want to resolve from a policy perspective are, I think we've got to figure out as a commission where the best avenues are to sort of tackle those. I think given that this is the first project of its kind in the area plan, in the significance of the affordable housing it will provide, I'm proud to support this motion.
Okay, so alphabetically, Commissioner Amadeo.
Aye.
Commissioner Berkey.
Aye.
Commissioner Garcia.
Aye.
Commissioner Rivera.
Aye.
Commissioner Lantelmi.
Aye.
Commissioner Patel.
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson.
Aye.
Commissioner Robertson.
Aye.
Commissioner Steinberger.
Aye.
Commissioner Torres.
Abstain.
Abstain, okay. And Commissioner Bagley, I'm an aye, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, and Commissioner Johnson, just for the record, recused herself, both from the discussion and the vote. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 ayes and 1 abstention. Okay, next motion.
Thank you. I move that the Planning Commission recommend that the County Board approve the rezoning REZN 25-00006 of the property from RA 818 Multiple Family Dwelling District to CO 1.5 Mixed Use Zoning District located at 2031 North Woodruff Street, RPC's number 07-010-001 and -002.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Robertson.
Lantelmi.
I'm sorry. I can't see around the thing there. Okay. Would you like to speak to your motion?
No.
Okay. Going to the vote alphabetically, Commissioner Amadeo.
Aye.
Commissioner Berkey.
Aye.
Commissioner Garcia.
Aye.
Commissioner Rivera.
Aye.
Commissioner Lantelmi.
Aye.
Commissioner Patel.
Aye.
Commissioner Robertson.
Aye.
Did I get Commissioner Peterson? Sorry.
Aye.
Jeez. Commissioner Steinberger.
Aye.
Commissioner, he's gone. Commissioner Torres.
Abstain.
Okay. And Commissioner Bagley, it's an aye, so I have 11 ayes and 1 abstention. Do you have another motion?
Yes, I do. Thank you. I move that the Planning Commission recommend that the County Board approve site plan SPLN 25-000 007 to permit the construction of an 11-story residential building with 249 committed affordable units and a parking ratio of 0.82 spaces per unit with modifications for additional density, additional building height, reduced parking ratio, density exclusions, and other modifications necessary to achieve the proposed development located at 2031 North Woodrow Street, RPCs number 07-010-001 and -002.
Second.
Commissioner Peterson seconded. Thank you. Do you wish to speak to your motion?
No, thank you.
Okay, let's go to a vote alphabetically. Commissioner Amadeo.
Aye.
Commissioner Berkey.
Aye.
Commissioner Garcia.
Aye.
Commissioner Rivera.
Aye.
Commissioner Lantelmi.
Aye.
Commissioner Patel.
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson.
Aye.
Commissioner Robertson. Commissioner Steinberger.
Aye.
Commissioner Torres.
Nay.
Okay. Commissioner Bagley, aye. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 ayes and 2 nays. Okay. Commissioner Berkey, you have another motion.
I do. I move that it is the sense of the Planning Commission that because it is critical for current residents of residential buildings proposed for redevelopment to have a seat at the table during the site plan review process, that it recommends that staff consider making it a standard operating procedure during the site plan review process, that it require applicants to make best efforts to advertise and make known to current residents the opportunity for one resident to serve as a resident representative to the project's site plan review committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Garcia. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you. Again, I'm making this motion because I think it is important for us as a commission to recognize the need to include current residents. The reason I worded it the way that I did was to acknowledge the fact that, of course, we can't, nor do we want to require a resident to be on the site plan review committee. I acknowledge the difficulties in this, and I don't disagree that it is a privilege to be able to go to a meeting at 7 p.m. on a weeknight. I think all that being said, I think it's still fairly reasonable for us to really push for this opportunity, even if staff is already working with True Ground. I think it's something that has been oft discussed, is not really a major ask. And it's just one more thing that we can ask staff to do to provide that opportunity for input, whether it actually is exercised by residents or not.
Mr. Bagley, Chair Bagley, I will be voting against this, not because I disagree with the sentiment behind it, but because we already have the power to do that. As all of us who have served as SPRC chairs, in the beginning, when we first sit down with staff and the applicant, we get a list of who should be sitting at the table. We can then say, we want somebody from this project, this condo, this rental unit to be at the table. We want them invited. And I've never once had staff say, no, we're not going to do that. They have always said, yep, we'll get that in there. And I've gotten my rosters the way I wanted them to be. So we have that power right now. Each one of us, when we are chair of an SPRC, have the ability right now to ask and require that someone be invited to sit at the table.
Chair Bagley, I'm going to align myself with Commissioner Lantelmi, and I want to make sure that it's on the record that I will be voting no for the same reasons.
Okay. Commissioner Steinberger.
So I will also express my intention to vote no on this. I think for some of the similar reasons that Commissioner Lantelmi and Commissioner Patel have addressed, but I think also I've made a standard sort of for myself when we have these sort of larger policy type, like sense of the commission, we're trying to make a policy change in the midst of, voting on a particular SPRC site plan matter. I don't generally view that as the way that we should be approaching what we do from the dais. And so I will be voting no on this as in that same vein, not because the sentiment is one that I disagree with, but for sort of the policy reasons of this is not the way that I view that my role as a commissioner should play out. But I appreciate the sentiment. I think it is a good one. I think we need to be very cognizant of this. I think we have highlighted the issue to staff appropriately, that this is something we are going to be looking for when we are designing SPRC rosters. And I look forward to not having this conversation again. Thank you.
I'd like to just
Sorry, just a quick question. In regards to what Commissioner Steinberg was saying, is that, are we saying that it's connected to the current motions of the plan that we are looking at today? And if that is the case, okay, just so I'm wondering if I need to recuse myself from that as well. That's what I'm asking. Okay, thank you.
So you do not want to vote on that, or you do?
Oh, no, I do.
Okay, thank you.
I did just want to quickly voice support for this motion, not because we can't do it now, but I think it signals that it is important to us. And I think it signals to the county that it's important. And I think, you know, as someone who has had a lot of struggles trying to get people in buildings that are under development to participate, I think it also leads to a chain effect of the county having the staff they need to do that outreach. And so I think it's important to document it and show that it is important to us that people like Mr. Jeffrey Williams here, our only River House resident who comes to every single meeting that the county has. Like, I want him to get credit for that, and I want him to have a seat at the table. And so I think it's an opportunity for us to say that that's important.
Okay, Commissioner Torres, and then Commissioner Peterson.
When you have a small residential addition, you normally get signatures from all of the residents around. They don't even have to show up, but they sign and say, we acknowledge that this is happening. And that's all you do. Is that something that could be added or an option to this motion? Because I actually do think that at the very least, we should know that they know it's happening. Right now, I don't really know if they know, if they paid attention, if they read it. I don't know.
Is the question whether notifications?
Would staff like to comment on that?
I mean, that is something that I think that we would want to discuss with our county attorney in terms of that requirement, because again, for any site plan project, we require owner participation and notification, and we have them provide all of the documentation in terms of requiring a petition for individual residents to sign as let's just call it a submission requirement. I don't know to what degree we can force them to do that, but it is something I can take back and have that conversation. We can report back in a future meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner Peterson?
I do plan to support this motion, and one of the parts of the motion that stands out to me is that it would require applicants to make a best effort to advertise and make known to current residents the opportunity to participate in this process. And so we can do as much as we can to make sure somebody is invited, but if the applicants aren't being required to advertise to their community, you know, whether or not we say, let's put somebody on the SPRC roster, if they don't know about it, they can't get invited. So that's why I plan to support this.
Are we ready for a vote? Okay. All right. Alphabetically, Commissioner Amadeo.
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay. Commissioner Berkey.
Aye.
Commissioner Garcia.
Aye.
Commissioner Rivera.
Abstain.
Commissioner Lantelmi.
Nay.
Commissioner Patel.
Nay.
Commissioner Peterson.
Aye.
Commissioner Robertson.
Aye.
Commissioner Steinberger.
Nay.
Commissioner Torres.
Aye.
And me, I am voting, Commissioner Bagley is voting no. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, that's right, I forgot. Commissioner Johnson, sorry.
Oh, aye.
Okay, very good. All righty. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ayes. We have 1, 2, 3 nays and 2 abstentions. I think, correct, right? Is that what your numbers also show, Mr. Schreiber? No.
I'm showing 642.
1, 2, 3, 4,
I think 4 and
5,
8.
6.
6.
And
4 noes, 2 abstentions.
okay, 4 no's.
Uh-huh.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, we have it at 642.
Correct.
Yes,
Right, so the motion would pass.
yes. Thank you. Wow. So again, I want to thank Commissioners Berkey and Amadeo. It was a rough night, babe. You did a great job. You think it's easy up here? No, it's not. Also staff for all the effort and going back and forth and working with the applicant, and also the applicant. I think you've responded well on many things up until now, and hopefully with the conversation tonight, you've got a couple other things that maybe we'll hear about in the future. So, and thank you so much for public commenters who took the time to see this process through. So thank you all very much. And I think with that, we are ready to move to commission business, correct? So hopefully quickly. Mr. Schreiber, do we have any staff updates?
I don't believe we do today.
Thank you. Commissioner Peterson, do we have any LRPC updates?
Just that we anticipate having 2 meetings during the month of March, one for a project and one for the work plan, staff work plan.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, great. SPRC, that's me. I believe we have 2 rosters. One is, do you want to put those up? One is Dominion Arms. Thank you to Commissioner Robertson for chairing that project. Appreciate that. While she's putting that up, awesome, thank you. I seek unanimous consent for this. Great, thank you. The second roster is for Air and Space Force Association. Thank you to Commissioner Steinberger and Commissioner Torres for chairing this. For this, I seek unanimous consent. Thank you so much. All righty, a couple other things. Waverly Ridge, we have SPRC number 2 on February 19th. And also just announced today, SPRC number 1 is for the Spire at Fairmont on February 23rd. Does anyone know if the ZOCO meeting, since Commissioner Streiner is not here, if the ZOCO meeting on February 17th is a go? I have not seen anything about it, so I'm wondering if it is. It's on the schedule, but I didn't see. Thank you for looking that up. While he's looking that up, Commissioner Berkey, anything on form-based code?
Nothing to report at this time.
Okay. Commissioner Steinberger, anything on PFRC?
No.
Great. Any other updates?
I have a question on SPRC. Could we in the future try to not schedule SPRCs the same night as the Transportation Commission meeting?
Okay.
Because last Thursday was Transportation Commission. We also apparently had an SPRC.
Was that election? Yes.
So
okay.
If we could avoid that, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, I will definitely take that to heart. We will make sure that does not happen. So thank you again to staff, applicants, public speakers, and also thank you to Commissioner Guevara, who will be representing the commission at the county board on the 21st of February. Hearing nothing else.
Madam Chair.
Yes, I'm sorry. Did we miss something?
Approve the meeting minutes for January
Sorry
12th.
about that.
I never
You
saw
know,
that.
I passed right over that. Huh? Oh, and the annual report. Thank you. See, this is why you're all here. I would like to seek unanimous consent on the January minutes. Yes, we're good. Okay, great. And I would like to seek unanimous consent on the report. Annual report. Awesome. Great. Thank you. Now, thank you all very much for everyone tonight. Thank you also for your patience last month when we did the liaison assignments. This was really super important to Madam Clerk. that we didn't extend those. And I understand we still have one vacancy, do we not?
We do not.
Somebody took it. Oh,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you. So thank you all very much. And thank you especially to Madam Clerk and Ms. Harrison, who keep us all in some semblance of order here. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.